Please quiet down. We're going to start. Can I have your attention, please? We're going to, everybody take their seats. Good evening to everybody. Please silence your phones. All right, time is now 7:06. Let's begin the session here. Today is Wednesday, May 29th. I now call to order. This is the 7th session of the 2024 Annual Town Meeting for the Town of Stoughton. This meeting is now in session. This meeting is being held in person at the Stoughton High School Auditorium at 232 Pearl Street in Stoughton. This meeting is also being broadcast live through the Stoughton Media Access Corporation and is also being recorded for future broadcasting. Please rise if you are able and join me in pledging allegiance to our national flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Please be seated. All right, just to remind everybody, back on Monday, May 6th, I did introduce all of our town officials. They have not changed, and Steve Cavey asked me to let you know that he would like to be here, but he's not feeling well. He's under the weather. So we wish Steve well, and hopefully he gets better. All right, to assure that we have a quorum this evening, we're going to proceed with attendance. I'm going to call out the precinct chairs and I'm sorry, yep. I'm sorry. Joining us this evening, John Azavino couldn't be here this evening. Chet Collins from the Finance Committee is here. Welcome, Chet. All right, here we go with the attendance. Juan Fox, Precinct 1. 8. George Delinsky, Precinct 2. 14 for Precinct 2. Matt Callis, Precinct 3. 12 for Precinct 3. Julie Gito, Precinct 4. 14 for Precinct 4. Dex Lanson, Precinct 5. 14 for Precinct 5. Bob Kirby, Precinct 6. 14, Precinct 6. Excuse me, Diane Dolan, Precinct 7. 15, Precinct 7. And David Sheehan, Precinct 8. 11, thank you, Pat Yanukovsky. 11 for Precinct 8. All right. So this evening we have 102 town meeting reps this evening. 85 is considered a quorum. With 102 representatives present, I declare a quorum is now present, and we're going to proceed with our order of business. The first order of business will be to test our clickers. As soon as we get something up on the screen, okay, we're ready to go. Please test. Press any number, 1, 2, or 3. Okay, everybody have their clickers working? Anybody that? Everybody's working? Okay, we're going to proceed. Just a reminder, if your clicker stops working, please come down and see the town clerk, the acting town clerk. All right, just a couple of housekeeping notes. Procedural motions that were already moved and voted back on Monday, May 6th, and they remain in effect. We have 10 articles remaining this evening, and we will get them all done this evening. So I ask you, the town meeting representative, since it's your meeting, that you work with me to get these 10 articles completed this evening. So, using moderator's discretion, I'm going to limit town meeting reps to one question each this evening. One question each. Make them worthwhile, make them germane to the article. You can still have up to 3 minutes for your pro and con debate. If needed, I'll have to curtail that if we're running behind. Just want to give you a heads up on that. So one question each, and you still have up to 3 minutes in the debate section. All right, as I mentioned, we have 10 articles left. We will get them all done tonight. All right, we will start with Article 41. It appears on page 65 in your warrant book. Please turn to page 65 for Article 41, renovation of Marks Field construction phase. Just to alert everybody, this does have an amended motion that will, with the sunset clause, that we'll discuss once we get through all the standing committee reports. At this point in time, I'd like to ask Vaughn Anokian, Chair of the Finance Committee, for the proposed motion.
That the town vote pursuant to General Law, Chapter 44B, the Community Preservation Act, to appropriate from the Community Preservation Fund undesignated fund balance the sum of $518,000 to fund the construction phase of the renovation of Marks Field.
Is there a second? Second. Seconded by Chet Collins. Thank you, Chet. Finance Committee report, please.
Finance Committee voted 12-0 to recommend the motion for Article 41 as written in the warrant.
Thank you. Can I have the Community Preservation Committee report?
The Community Preservation Committee voted 7-0 in support of the article.
Thank you very much. As I mentioned, this has an amended motion with the sunset clause. John Lennon?
Thank you. Yeah.
I recognize you.
Amended motion is the same as the original motion with the addition of the sentence exempt from Article 70, Annual Town Meeting, May 2023, sunset bylaw.
Thank you very much. Do I have a second? Seconded by George Dolinsky. Thank you, Mr. Dolinsky. Okay, at this point in time, can I have the presentation, Mr. Lanham? Oh, I'm sorry. Let's vote. I'm jumping ahead. Let's by voice vote only, just a simple majority. All right, all those in favor of accepting the amended motion as discussed, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? It's unanimous. The ayes have it. Now, Barry Kassler, presentation, please.
Barry Kassler, Program Administrator for the Community Preservation Committee. Last year, town meeting approved the design phase of this project, which would convert an unused town asset, Marks Field, which has been sitting pretty much vacant and unused and in really poor shape for quite a while. We would convert it into a playing field for Stoughton Youth Lacrosse during their playing season and would also be available the rest of the year for other Stoughton teams. So this is the construction phase of that article. The project was recommended unanimously by the CPC on December 6th under the category of recreation. And here to present the project is Stolak's President, Mike Tupin.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Thank you for your service to the town. I appreciate it. This has been an educational process for me. I started this project 3 years ago when I became president of Stoughton Youth Lacrosse. I approached the Community Rec Department, Matt Koshan, and it started me down this project to the CPC. And I've met with a lot of the town departments to get here, so I would appreciate your support. So, I don't know who's controlling the slides. We can go through that. That's just the article. Okay. We're seeking funds to build a sports field at the current Marks Field location at the corner of Blackstone and Spring Street. Even though I'm with Stoughton Youth Lacrosse, this is a town field that can be used by the rec department for other community departments. Okay. We want to build a sports field for both boys and girls to safely play sports at Marks Field. The biggest part of this is we need a level grass playing field. The condition of Marks Field, it's in rough shape. It's been neglected for a long time. We're looking to remove the remnants of the old softball field and then build the necessary infrastructure to support youth sports and provide some light landscaping for better sightlines for our neighbors. Marks Field is town land that's falling into disrepair and becoming less usable for youth sports. The town of Stoughton and the Recreation Department and Stoughton Youth Lacrosse needs a home where we can practice and play games. An improved Marks Field will be available for many sports in multiple seasons. Stoughton Youth Lacrosse has been using this field since 2013. This is Marks Field. If you don't know, it's over by the Gibbons Elementary School. The green portion of this is roughly the usable area with the outlines of the entire plot. I got a couple of pictures you're going to go through. This is the field. You can even see the remnants of the infield, the lighter grass that you'd be looking towards home plate here. There is many different changes in elevation at the field, and it's detrimental for us to be practicing there. Next field. This is just another picture of the field looking the other direction. I was here last year. You guys were kind enough to approve the $12,800 for the design project. We went back to Activitas, and they have given us the breakdown for the total of $518,000 for the project. That's it. Thank you. Any questions?
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. Okay, this is the time for technical questions. Just recall everybody, one question per town meeting rep. Mr. Scardino.
Joe Scardino, Precinct 1. How many parking spaces are planned with this project?
We don't have any additional parking that we're adding to this field.
So where are the spectators, parents waiting for to pick up their, drop off their children?
So the areas that we use right now, so the off-street parking along Blackstone Street, and then there is grass parking in the back.
Okay, we're going to move on. That's your one question. Mr. Dolinsky, please identify yourself. Oh, is there somebody before?
It's me.
Mr. Feinberg, didn't see you over here. No, that's okay. Let's go to you, sir.
Good evening. Arnie Feinberg, Precinct 6. If this field is going to have lighting, no lighting?
No lighting.
Okay, questions answered.
All right, next I'm told Mr. Guerin. You good? Who's next? Mr. Dolinsky, we're coming to you.
Thank you. George Jelinski, Precinct 2. I believe this is on.
There you go.
My question is, having been involved with the construction of a youth football field, okay, and I have some expertise on this, the one thing I saw, and I'm so much in favor of this, you have no idea. The only thing I see that's lacking is there's no bathroom facilities. Is there a reason that somebody needs to go to the bathroom? There's nothing there. And there's $516,000. You would tend to think you could have something.
So we would plan to rent porta johns. We don't have any plumbing at the facility.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Coleman, you're up next.
Eric Coleman, Precinct 5. I see on page 433 on the supplemental book 2 that you paid practice rental. Would there be any rental paid for this property in Marks Field?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
There's on page 433, there's a listing of cash out. The highest number there was $5,210 for practice rental. Is that for a field that you rented? What was that for? And would that be happening when you get Marks Field?
It's there if we need to. We're trying to do the construction part in the fall where it wouldn't conflict with our spring season.
Would you be paying rent for this property?
You're asking a couple of questions there.
That's a question I'm asking, but I didn't get an answer.
All right, so this is your question is, are you paying rent?
No, the town charges us $1 to rent, to lease the field. That's
Marina? Please identify yourself, please.
Good evening. Marina Ryans, Precinct 7. Can you tell me, maybe just a few, what are the expenses? What's included under 518? What exactly are you going to build, except landscaping and removing the junk?
Yep, so they're going to put up construction fencing so that they can do the work on the field. They're going to strip the topsoil off, put it off to the side, provide a base layer to level the field off. They'll move the dirt back on top. They're going to have a new chain link fence all around. And then they're going to have netting, 20-foot netting on either side of the ends to protect the neighborhood from balls being shot out. And then a construction of an equipment shed. The one that's there now is on the playing field, so that has to be taken down. So they're going to have to build us a new equipment shed.
Thank you. Sounds
Okay,
good.
thank you both. Mr. Bob Cohn?
Bob Cohn, Precinct 5. Who's going to maintain these fields, this field?
We've been doing it since 2013. Will we continue to do that?
So you'll maintain the field?
Yes.
Thank you very much, sir.
All right. Anybody else? Becca? No? Okay, moving on to pro and con debate. Anybody? Seeing none? I'll give you like 2 or 3 minutes if you want to do a summary. Interested in doing a summary? You don't have to.
No, I'm okay. Thank you. Appreciate your
Thank you
support.
very much. Okay. This is a simple majority vote. Are we up? Okay, please vote now. 1, 2, or 3. Simple majority.
So subtle. So subtle. That's enough. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, the vote, Article 41 passes, 97 yes, 17 no, 1 abstention. Thank you all for voting. Okay, let's turn to page 66. That's Article 42.
Congratulations.
Okay, just going to take a very brief recess. I'm going to recuse myself from this article. And Carmel Drews, the deputy moderator, is going to take over.
We're on page 66, Article 42. All right. Can we have the motion from the Chair of the Finance Committee?
That the town vote pursuant to General Law, Chapter 44B, the Community Preservation Act, to appropriate from the Community Preservation Fund Community Housing Reserve the sum of $250,000 to support the conversion of the Stoughton Motel into 24 single-resident studio apartment housing units for homeless individuals.
Seconded by Cynthia. Yeah? Cynthia Walsh. Report from the Finance Committee?
Finance Committee voted 8-4 to recommend the motion for Article 42 as written in the warrant.
And from Community Preservation?
The Community Preservation Committee voted 7-0 to support the article.
And this is an article that needs the sunset bylaw amendment, so...
As amended. I should have said.
Mr. Linehan, are you prepared to...
Excuse me 1 second. The original motion for this article was voted 4-3 in support of this article. And do you want me to read the amended motion?
Yes, please.
Sorry.
That's okay.
And it's the same as the original motion, except adding the sentence exempt from Article 70, Annual Town Meeting, May of 2023, sunset bylaw.
Second? All right. I saw Carolyn. All right. You heard Elliot. Elliot, you got it. All right. And we can do that by voice vote. So all in favor of amending this motion, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Hearing none. That sounds unanimous. And now we will go on to the presentation of the article by Mr. Kessler.
Okay. Thank you, Barry Castler, Community Preservation Committee, Program Administrator. Father Bill's in Mainspring Incorporated is a nonprofit organization which provides housing to people in need, in this case to people who don't even have a place to call home. The CPC believes that Stoughton has a moral responsibility to assist people who find themselves without a house. The committee voted 4 to 3 to 1 to recommend this project to town meeting under the category of community housing on December 6th. Here to present this project are John Lanham, Chief Operating Officer of Father Bill's in Mainspring, and Pat Roney, Director of Communications.
Good evening, everyone. So my name is John Lanham, as Barry said, Chief Operating Officer for Father Bill's in Mainspring. We appreciate the opportunity to speak to you tonight about this project. As Mr. Kessler mentioned, we've been a nonprofit housing and support service provider in this region since 1982. For the past 40 years, really trying to provide services to our neighbors who are most in need. Families, individuals, and veterans who don't have a place to sleep at night, trying to find safe housing and emergency shelter for them wherever they may need it. We currently operate about 700 units of permanent supported housing across the South Shore region. And we really believe firmly that developing housing is the best way to alleviate homelessness in our region. It's the best way to provide a stable, safe place for people to be. It's the best way to provide services to help support them as they move out of homelessness into stable housing, and really helps alleviate all of the needs that we have. As an agency, we've been working with the town of Stoughton for about 20 years. We have had a residential facility here that has been well respected, and lots of volunteers from the Stoughton region, so we certainly appreciate the support you've provided there. We're excited to talk about the project tonight. We can go to the second slide. As you may know, we had, back in June of 2023, we purchased the Stoughton Motel, which is on 1919 Washington Street. This has been operated as a roadside motel since the 1950s, with some expansion in the back of the building over the last several years. Our project will convert the 16 motel rooms and the 2 properties that are adjacent and connected to the hotel into 24 efficiency units. What that means is we are looking to renovate the interior of the buildings to take the motel rooms and the housing bedrooms and turn them into apartments. We are looking to add kitchenettes into the space and to make sure that everyone has their own individual bathroom and apartment space. This will allow each person to have their own private space, not have common areas they need to worry about for cooking facilities, and really be able to have a home that they can start to develop in Stoughton. All of the 24 apartments will be subsidized rental assistance. There will be on-site support services, meaning that there'll be case manager dedicated to this building to work with the individuals, as well as evening and overnight site support for staff who are there to help support the individuals and the property. Father Bill's in Mainspring will be the owner, developer, and manager for this property. We are the sole company doing this work. We're not outsourcing it to anyone else. And as you can see from up here, we're looking for $250,000, which would really break down to about $10,400 per unit. We can go to the next slide if you like. So just some pictures of what the current property looks like. We can go through the next couple until we get to the site plan. So really the impact for us is that we're looking to take a motel that has a nightly clientele and to replace it with housing, and have 24 individuals who are using this as their home and place to live permanently. We tend to see very long retention rates in our housing programs. Generally, we have 98% retention for someone that moves into our housing after their first year, 93% retention after 3 years. Most of the people that are moving on from our housing are moving into their own supported housing through a Section 8 voucher, some other subsidized housing, or moving into fair market rent. And so we're seeing that this project provides long-term stable opportunities for people to work on whatever barriers they may have had that caused them to lose their housing in the first place. We also just really like these types of properties. It's an underutilized property, a motel that already has bathrooms in each room, good-sized rooms that can easily be converted with kitchenettes to turn into an efficiency apartment that can provide a person a great starter place to move forward. In terms of the construction, we are not modifying the layout of any of the building. We're not really changing any of the site plan other than adding some parking into the back of the building. We will be doing much of the work, as I said, inside, renovating all of the electrical, the plumbing, life safety systems, and putting a new laundry and common area facilities in this space. All of the building will also be connected to public sewer and water facilities. There is currently septic tanks on this site that are failing. There's a well on site that is in danger of those septic tanks, so we're looking to remove those to remove any concern there. We can go to the last slide just to show a quick rendering of what the front of the building will look like with some of the updated landscaping. That's the general overview for the project. I really appreciate the time to present to you all tonight, but we'll say that this type of housing, we've been doing this for about 30 years as an agency. We have found that there is just tremendous outcomes for people who have struggled significantly in their life. When they have a permanent place to stay, a place to keep their items safe, start building back their life, having their own key, having their own place, just makes such a difference. It's really hard to work on all of the challenges that life can throw at you if you aren't sure where you're sleeping at night. And so we're just really excited about the opportunity to look at this project and develop some more housing for the community. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
So now we'll move on to question period. Remember that we're limiting to one question in the interest of time. And please keep your questions specific to this article, not to the overall state of homelessness and housing in Massachusetts.
Hi, Bob Kirby from Precinct 6, through you, moderator. The clientele, how are you determining what clientele are eligible to live here? And are you bound to Massachusetts regulations for state override so they could place anyone there? For example, Stoughton is already in the other hotels, converted them into shelters for immigrants. So is this going to be a different scenario, or how is the clientele going to be determined here?
So clients for this are selected through fair housing with mass rental vouchers that will be in these units. People have to be at 30% of the area median income. And then as a region, we use a process called coordinated entry, which we do for all of our housing projects. So we assess individuals who are in need by the length of time they've been in shelter, the number of vulnerabilities that they may have, and to really try to assess those who are at highest need for permanent housing. This building, because of the state funding and the CPC funding that could be associated with this, will mean that it needs to stay as a housing project in perpetuity. It can't be changed into a shelter down the road.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Mr. Guerin.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Jim Guerin, Precinct 6. Is this these buildings going to require maintenance and janitorial services?
They will. So we provide the property management services for the building.
You do. Thank you.
Juan Fox.
Juan Fox, Precinct 1. Reiterating, are Stoughton residents going to be given any kind of presence for residency?
So because of the coordinated entry system, we're not able to give a local preference, but what we do see in practice is that people want to live in the areas that they grew up in, worked in, or that they have familiarity with. So we work with people throughout the region. We serve 20 people from Stoughton in our shelters this year already in Brockton and Quincy. So we have people in Stoughton who are homeless in Stoughton, could not find shelter here, went to another community, and we would certainly be looking to offer opportunities to those individuals. But we do have to follow our coordinated entry process. But as I said, in practice, what we often see is if we offer someone housing in an area, they want to be where they have connections and they have services already in place.
Bob?
Bob Cohn, Precinct 5. He asked my question, but I have one. You're tax exempt. You're going to require police and ambulance, I'm sure of that. How does that work?
How does the police and ambulance services work?
Yes, when they come and pick us up at our house, someone has to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
Our insurance pays for it. When they come to you, who's going to pick up those people? God forbid. I hope you never have to use it.
So
who's going to pay the ambulance service? It is a town service, financed through the citizens.
So generally, everyone in the house, generally most of our guests, if they're 30% of the area median income, they often have Mass Health or Medicare. That would regularly cover the cost of those emergency services. I think that's why we also like to have site support on site in the building to be able to help engage with people if there's any kind of medical needs to make sure the appropriate services are provided.
Thank you very much.
Jonna?
I just wanted to ask you, I think it's really a wonderful thing to try to help the homeless and to help people who are down in the luck. But given that in the past in other cities in our state, that these places, I know like the Veterans Place, they took that away and filled it with the illegal immigrants, and I know that this is an issue, and I'm afraid of that happening again. What assurances do we have that this is not going to happen, given that these people are going to have these Section 8 vouchers, and that is also what the illegal aliens are going to have? So how do we have an assurance that this is not going to be taken up by the illegals?
So we will be using mass rental vouchers for this program, is what the state has told us, and so we'll continue to follow the coordinated entry process to select people for those units.
So if they have them too, they can
One
get
question,
in there.
please.
So they can get in there too.
So what you're saying is Arnie Feinberg, Precinct 6. So what you're saying is non-citizens will be allowed to occupy your apartments. Am I correct?
So I can't say like who's going to be in the units. What we follow is coordinated entry, which looks at the length of time that people are in buildings and looks at who's eligible. They need to be able to provide certain documentation in order to be eligible for these types of vouchers. We follow the state regulations on who's eligible for the vouchers that are provided.
Thank you.
Peter?
One question here. Have the people in the area been notified that this is happening there in their neighborhood?
Yes, we had a butters community meeting with the butters
Really?
as part of the community process earlier.
The reason why I asked that,
Wait, that's your one question.
I'm still on the same question.
I think you want to provide explanation, which you can do during pro-con.
No,
but
it's
you've
the
had
same.
your question asked and answered.
It's the same questions. I only get up because I got 2 text messages that people don't know what's going on here. That's all I want to say.
Mr. Hartman?
Mike Hartman, Precinct 8. Do you provide transportation to the people living there to the job possibilities?
So that's one of the roles of the case manager who's on site. We know that there's not great public transportation on the street as well as a sidewalk. And so that was actually in the abutters meetings. That was one of the concerns that was brought up. So the case managers will provide transportation to jobs, food services, whatever we need to help support that individual, as well as trying to coordinate with PT1s, the ride, whatever might be afforded to them.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think we're here and then over.
Thank you. Marina Ryans, Precinct 7. I'm still not clear about how you pick and choose people. Is there an application? How you find these people? I'm sorry.
So again, we use our process called coordinated entry. So that is for individuals who are considered literally homeless, meaning they're living in a shelter or staying outside. We do an assessment on them, basically, where it determines their mental health history, medical history, looks at how long they've been in shelter, and it gives them a score. And so we use that to help tier who may be most appropriate for this type of housing. And then we go to them with options to say, look, we have a housing opportunity for you in this area. It's not the same as a Section 8 where you maybe do an application, get on a list, and it goes by number. It's really based on vulnerability.
I'm sorry, I just didn't understand. So people who don't have home live, on the streets.
Mm-hmm.
So how do they know how to apply and they walk in and they say, I'm homeless, please take me in?
So that goes through all of the access points, which would be the local shelters, the outreach workers, and the other providers that we work with. They all have access to do that assessment and send us information of who they think would be eligible.
So you have database, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Thank you.
Paul Bellavoe, Precinct 3. I know everything's approved for this project. Will you still do the project if you don't get this funding?
It's a good question. So we have received local state funding for this project. That was contingent on us seeking CPC funding. And so if we are not voted in getting this funding tonight, we would need to go back to the state to say that this is where we're at and see what their decision is. If they're still looking to moving forward with the project, we would have to look at other public or private donations to try to cover that gap.
Thank you.
Thank you. David Lurie, Precinct 6. My question is very similar to a previous speaker, and I think just to be crystal clear on it is, do you go in an outreach way to see people in the streets who are homeless and say, we'd like to qualify you to come to one of our shelters, or is it the other way around, where they come looking for you saying, can you help me, I'm homeless, or is it some combination of both? Like at what level do you actually do the outreach versus the other way around?
So it's a little bit of both. So we have dedicated outreach workers who go out to find individuals who are staying outside on a regular basis to engage with them on whatever services we can offer for them, housing being one of those. Often the immediate need is more for food and for medical support, but we will absolutely work with them.
Mr. Hanson?
Elliot Hanson, Precinct 1. Is somebody, all right, somebody's homeless again and finally get someplace in there, and they get a job.
Mm-hmm.
Do they pay some percentage, we'll say 30%, and do they get to a point where they got enough, a good enough job, if they're really lucky, that they can actually afford at market housing?
That's a good question. So yes, everyone pays 30% of their income towards rent. That's part of the voucher that they're on. We certify their income every year to see where they're at for their income to be able to determine what their rent portion is. If someone gets a job, gets an increase in benefits, that could raise their rent. And it's very rare, but it has happened where someone is making enough money where they are no longer eligible for the voucher. At that time, they could just pay rent if they want to continue staying there, or we would look to move them to their own fair market rent apartment.
Oh, thank you.
Are you Emily? So we're in questions and answers right now. So I understand that you're a community member who would like to speak on this. So just so that folks know, the protocol for that is that if at the end of pro-con debate and the question has not been called, then we're going to allow a community member to speak. Another option that you have, Emily, is to communicate quickly with a town meeting representative about what you would like to say and have them present that for you during the pro-con debate. You'd have to figure that out quickly, though, on the spot. So now we are moving on to pro-con debate. Again, thank you everyone for keeping your comments concise and tight, because we all want to be done tonight and not come back in June. We'll start here. Juan Fox.
Juan Fox, Precinct 1. Now, we're all talking about as if we are deciding whether they're going to be there or not. But they're going to be there one way or the other. It's a done deal. What we're talking about are the $250,000 of CPA funds. Now, the CPA funds are meant only for the betterment of Stoughton residents. But Father Bills is not going to prioritize Stoughton homeless. The impact, the Father Bills' impact to Stoughton is the same as if the location was just 100 yards down the road in Easton. Exact same impact on us, or in Revere, or in Springfield. This would be a charitable donation to the organization whose only connection with Stoughton is the location of the facilities. The CPA funds are not supposed to be spent on general charity unless that request benefits Stoughton residents, which it does not in general. The funds are not needed to open this facility. They will operate it, build it, and operate it regardless. They don't need the funds, they want the funds. This already will be expensive for Stoughton. There are two other Father Bills facilities in town, one at 95 Porter and one at 820 Washington Street. The 820 Washington Street is currently costing the town tons of money in fire and police visits. These visits include fire alarm pearls, drug overdoses, larceny, assaults, and even an investigation of a rape in the last 3 years. The providing homes for the homeless is a laudable goal, but apparently FB is not a good steward of this goal because they're not keeping these incidents under control. We don't need to add to the town's economic burden to come from this project by handing over $250,000 of our tax money.
Bob Kirby, Precinct 6. In normal circumstances, I'd be all for this project. It sounds great on paper. I mean, it's short money to put up a couple of dozen affordable units for people that are homeless on the street. But my two concerns are, one, what Juan Fox just presented. There's no assurances that Stoughton are going to be at the top of the list here, even if in a perfect world they were. I doubt that the Stoughton community is going to directly benefit. And two, I don't frankly trust the state. The state has a huge problem with immigration on its hands, and it's looking for every nook and cranny to put people up. And I just think they're going to take advantage of this situation as they have everywhere else. And Stoughton is going to have more of a problem housing immigration. I know the town manager wrote to the state telling them of the impact on our emergency services and things. And this is, again, going to put more of a strain on emergency services. So in the cost-benefit analysis, it's not going to serve Stoughton. It's going to put some money out, and it's not going to guarantee we're just not piling up housing a population which is not the targeted population. I think it's too easy for the state to say, oh, we got housing right here, let's use that.
Cynthia and then Pat. Go ahead, Cynthia.
I don't know if your mic is working or...
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Cynthia.
Cynthia Walsh, 1096. Wrong venue. Precinct 3. I am not a religious woman, but I was raised by one. The first murderer we know the name of, when asked where his brother was, responded to a question with a question. Am I my brother's keeper? It didn't say your Stoughton brother or your Stoughton sister. It said your brother. We're taking a facility that has housed transients for decades and providing permanent homes for people that, through many times no fault of their own. Remember, not everyone who's homeless is a criminal. It bothers me that you could be homeless because of a divorce, because of a death, because you're burned out of your apartment, or your new landlord doubles the rent, or your new landlord evicts you for no good reason. So it's not just people that have real mental health problems or physical health problems. But for those people, this is perfect. It's wraparound care. If they have an issue, it will be addressed. And as in any facility, anyone who's charged with a crime isn't going to be home anymore. They're going to be somewhere else. We have to... Most of the crimes in Stoughton are committed by people that live in homes. That's the bad truth. I urge you to support this. It's important that we send the message that everyone is welcome in Stoughton and that we stop dividing people into little silos.
Pat.
Pat Colburn, pardon me, Precinct 4, didn't mean to yell. I'm in favor of this. You know, I refuse to live in fear of immigrants. I refuse to live in fear of what might come down the pike. We have people in need, and we need to help them. This is 24 units. I'm very impressed by the services that you're providing. I have people I know and love that have had need of homelessness, have need of mental health, all kinds of issues, and the road for them is so hard. It is not easy at all to navigate the system. And when your world falls out and you don't even have a place to live, how are you supposed to apply for Medicare? How are you supposed to apply for anything? So you know, God's angels on this earth who have a calling to help, I am so grateful for. Now, there are always going to be people who aren't going to make the best use of it. I was speaking with the officer about this. There are some people, you know, you can't help, but there are many that you can. And again, I'm very impressed with the wraparound services. I just can't let this go unsaid, though, unless I'm mistaken. People who rent don't pay property taxes, right? But they're in our schools, they're on our playgrounds, they're on these fields we're building, they get police and ambulance. So to say these people aren't deserving, yet people who rent are, I don't understand that. So I am for this, and I just won't live in fear, and I wish them well, and I hope at least some of them can turn their lives around. Thank you.
Donna? It's Jonna Rosenblatt, Precinct 7. Jonna Rosenblatt, Precinct 7. To the previous speaker's point, I just wanted to say I understand that this sounds like a wonderful thing and everybody wants to be good-hearted and humanitarian. However, I was not for us to become a sanctuary city or town or whatever we are. And unfortunately, I'm having to face the consequences of that. And that's what I'm trying to avoid. I don't want to make this exponentially a grander problem. And that's why me, along with many other of our town members, are afraid of this becoming a bigger issue. And we have a right to say that. It's affecting our schools. It's affecting the budget. It's affecting our services. It's affecting everything negatively. We have a right to be concerned and to comment on it. And I feel that this is not an advantageous thing. And I don't understand, too, why if it's a 51C, I'm not sure if that's what it is or not, but why we are having to contribute to that. Why aren't they coming up with their own monies? Why are they asking us for money? That's what I'm confused about. But I don't think this is a good idea, and I hope that people don't vote for it.
Over here, Mr. Billow.
Thank you. Dave Billow, Precinct 4. Again, I'll be brief as well. There's a lot of bad news out there in the world these days, and I think if we vote no, that's not going to be good news. If we vote yes, that puts good news out in the world, and I think we'll make Stoughton a town that I can be proud of, and I'm looking forward to voting yes for this. Thank you.
Dr. Gunn.
Hi. Laura Gunn, Precinct 5. I appreciate that there is a lot of concern about housing in this town. I don't think anyone is against people raising their concerns, but I do think this town needs to be really, really thoughtful and careful about not doing things that would benefit members of our town because we're afraid of them benefiting people that we might not accept as members of our town. I think the speaker has made it very clear that this is a project that is not going to be falling into the same category as some of the hotels in this town. And I think we need to look at it for what the benefit will bring to this town. I think there is not data that I have heard about any issue of it not benefiting the town because they can't control who applies for this. We can say we can't control it, but that doesn't mean that it's not going to provide benefit to the homeless people in this town. So I think we need to be careful in judging these kinds of projects because I think it brings real benefit, and we can't be afraid about, benefiting people that some folks in this town may think are not members of our community.
Marina Ryans, Precinct 7. I'd like to move the question.
All right, question has been moved and seconded. Those in favor of cutting off debate and moving the question, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? By my ear, the ayes have it. So we will now go on. Would you like to provide a brief summary statement? You can have 2 to 3 minutes to provide a quick summary and closing.
Thank you all for your comments and your questions tonight. We really do appreciate that. I will just note that, as I said earlier, we had 20 individuals this year that have already been served in our shelters who were from Stoughton and weren't able to find shelter in Stoughton. They had to go to Quincy, Brockton, or even our seasonal shelter in Plymouth to access services. We also have 40 individuals who are currently in housing, and some have been in housing for several years from a Stoughton address. And some of those people are in Stoughton in housing here. Others are in towns like Randolph, Hingham, Hull, areas where we have been able to provide housing to Stoughton residents in other areas because the housing just wasn't always available. Father Bills and Mainstream really does, look at how can we support individuals in their towns, in their communities. We want to make sure people have opportunities to be housed in the areas that they're from because we know that's where they want to be. It's where their family and friends are. It's where their doctors are. And so that's what we're going to commit to.
Thank you. So now we will take up the vote on the main question as amended. And go. Vote now. I believe it's a simple majority. This vote requires a simple majority. So the motion passes 78 yes, 42 no, and 1 abstention. And we will take a quick recess while your regularly scheduled moderator returns to the podium.
Thank you very much, Carmel, who's our deputy moderator. All right, moving on. That was Article 42. Let's turn to the next page, page 67, Article 43, Bird Street Conservation Area Entry Improvements. Hopefully everybody's on page 67. Wananokian, can I have the motion, please?
That the town vote pursuant to General Law, Chapter 44B, the Community Preservation Act, to appropriate from the Community Preservation Fund undesignated fund balance the sum of $110,000 to fund the design and construction of entryway improvements at the Bird Street Conservation Area, to include an electronic gate monitoring camera, utility infrastructure for the gate and camera, signage and fencing, and landscaping and tree work.
Okay, thank you. Seconded by Cynthia Walsh. Can I have the Finance Committee report, please?
Finance Committee voted 12-0 to recommend the motion for Article 43 as written in the warrant.
Thank you. Municipal Operations report, please.
Municipal Operations voted 5-0 with 1 abstention to approve Article 43. Michael Horan abstained due to being a member of the Conservation Commission.
Thank you very much, Cynthia. Can I have the Community Preservation Committee report, please?
The Community Preservation Committee voted 8-0 to recommend this as a cash article.
Thank you, John. Okay, this article also has an amended motion with the sunset clause. Mr. Lanahan, can I have the motion, please?
Yes, same motion as was originally read with the addition of the last sentence. Exempt from Article 70, Annual Town Meeting, May 2023, sunset by law.
Thank you. Seconded by Elliot Hansen. Okay, by voice vote. All those in favor of the amended motion as read, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? It's unanimous, I believe. That's what I heard. Give me 1 minute, please. Okay, now it's time for the presentation. Mr. Barry Castler.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Barry Castler, CPC Program Administrator. The Stoughton Conservation Commission is requesting funds to install an electronic gate system at Bird Street Conservation Area. This is to make sure that people do not enter the area after dark. The CPA fund will also pay for replacing fencing at the entrance to the conservation area as part of this project and some new signage. This project was recommended unanimously by the CPC on January 3rd under the category of recreation. And here present the project as Conservation Commission Chair, Jerry McDonald.
Good evening, Jerry McDonald, Precinct 4, Chairman of the Conservation Commission. I think Barry did a good job introducing it. This is an article that follows on the trail grant that Mark Tisdale submitted to the state, and we were awarded to do some trail improvements out there. And one of the last improvements that's going to be done is a small parking area inside the entranceway. And this gate is to make sure that that parking area is not used for the wrong purposes, off hours, prevent dumping, etc. Also, if you've been there, the entranceway is in need of some sprucing up because we're anticipating that more people will be visiting. That's the idea. So there'll be potentially a new sign welcoming you, some general cleanup and landscaping. So that's what we have in mind. I'll answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. First, We're in the technical questions. One question per town meeting rep. Elliot Hanson, please.
Elliot Hanson, Precinct 1. A quick question here. Where are these going to be monitored? I mean, there's cameras there monitoring things, but where are the screens, we'll say? And I assume these are going to be wireless, but I'm just kind of curious. Who's going to be watching?
This system is going to be identical to the one that was installed at Glen Echo, and I believe the feed goes to the police station.
Well, fine. Who watches it down there?
Yeah, that was 2 questions. 1, 2, but thank you. Next up is Arnold Feinberg.
Arnie Feinberg, Precinct 6. I just got a quick question. If you're walking the trails and you park your car there, and you don't make it back before dark, and the gates are closed, how do you get them open?
I believe it's the same as Glen Echo. There'll be a phone number posted to call the police department and ask them to let you out.
Thank you.
But there'll also be signage there that you should be out before then.
Okay, thank you both. Next up.
Good evening. Richard Parolin, Precinct 1. Is this the same type of gate that is down at Glen Echo, you said, that's already broken after a few months?
We're hoping that it should be a similar gate, and we're hoping not to have the same fate.
Okay, thank you both. Anybody else with technical questions? Okay, please identify yourself.
Davina Owens, Precinct 4. Does this grant require you to have a bus stop for a bus that comes from Brockton?
The grant writer and the grant that was submitted mentioned that there was a possibility of transportation, but that's been ruled out completely by the select board and BAT. I think it was just in there as a little bit of a carrot to the state to give us the grant.
Thank you.
Which they did.
Okay, thank you both. Okay, seeing no one else, we're moving into pro and con debate. First up, David Laurie.
David Lurie, Precinct 6, thank you. Through you to everybody that says my comments. I'm totally in favor of this. This is not only what you would want to see CPA spending money on, it's also one of the things about our town that we could be proud of. We have a lot of trees in this town. Not a lot of people know how to use the parks that we have. They need as many, groomed areas that they can pull over and know I can get to a park. We should be, accentuating the positives in the town, and this is a great way to do it. So I'm all in favor, and I hope you all too.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Peter Ventresco.
Peter Ventresco, Precinct 8. I'm in favor of this article, just so people can have a peaceful place to walk in the woods and just get away from all the noise and hear yourself think in the woods. So I'm in favor of this article.
Thank you. Mr. Lanahan?
John Lanahan, Precinct 1. I just know from other articles we've heard and about this Bird Street in particular, there was a desire for more parking, and that's been accomplished with that grant. And this is simply a way to make it a more secure area and not create unwanted problems. So I hope people support it.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no one else, Mr. McDonald, would you like to do a quick summary?
Just briefly, I'd like to thank Mark Tisdale and Craig Horsfeld and the engineering department for their support, both in getting the trail grant and to helping us with our projects. They really provide great support to us. Thank you.
Okay, this vote will be simple majority. It's the main motion as amended. Please vote now, 1, 2, or 3. Article 43 passes, 108 yes, 10 no, 0 abstentions.
Thank you all. See you at Bird Street.
Thank you. Okay, next up, we're moving right along. Article 44, Climate Action Plan Committee Consultant. That appears on page 68 in the warrant books. I'm going to ask you to read the motion too. Yep. Okay, Molly Cochran, if you could read the motion, please.
Thank you. So I have the, this is, first of all, I get to move to amend the main motion, so I now have an amended motion.
I'm going to ask you to read the main motion first. That's it. Do you have it? It's,
Hold on. I'm not sure I have the main motion with me, but let me hold on to it, see if I have the book. Thank you so much. I'll read the original main motion. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate and/or transfer from available funds in the treasury, if any, or borrow a sufficient sum of money not to exceed $100,000 for the purposes of hiring a consultant to assist the committee in research, analysis, strategic planning, and preparation of a written report and recommendation outlining how the town can efficiently minimize greenhouse gas emissions and other activity that contributes to climate change, and develop preparedness plans to protect the citizens of the town, which appropriation may be supplemented by any available federal and/or state grant monies and/or used to contribute matching funds toward any such grant or take any other action relative thereto. Proposed motion, I move that the town vote to appropriate $100,000 for the purposes of hiring a consultant or consultants to assist the Climate Action Committee, it's missing the word plan, in research, analysis, strategic planning, and preparation of a written report and recommendation outlining how the town can efficiently minimize greenhouse gas emissions and other activity that contributes to climate change and develop preparedness plans to protect the citizens of the town, said hiring and expenditures to be subject to approval by the town manager, and further to authorize the Climate Action Committee together with the town manager to apply for and receive any available grants which may supplement said appropriation and/or contribute to matching funds toward any such grant, and to meet this appropriation that $100,000 be transferred from free cash. Do you want me to read the explanation too?
no, that's okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Molly. Finance Committee report, please. Oh, I'm sorry, did I get a second from anybody?
Second.
Bob Cohen seconded. Thank you, Bob. Finance Committee report, please.
Finance Committee voted 1 to 10 to 1 to recommend the motion for Article 44 as written in the warrant. The motion failed.
Thank you.
Laura Gunn abstained as a member of the Climate Action Committee.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Intergovernmental relations. Amel?
Intergovernmental Relations voted 2 yes, 2 no, 2 abstain to recommend Article 44 to town meeting. Motion failed. Motion failed. The noes and abstentions due to the funding source for this article.
Okay, just to alert everybody, there's an amended motion on this. So, seeing no debate on this original motion, I'm going to ask Molly to, is it up on the screen?
Yes, I'd like to.
Read the proposed motion.
Yes, the proposed motion now says to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate and/or transfer from available funds in the treasury, if any, or borrow a sufficient sum of money not to exceed $50,000 for the purposes of hiring a consultant to assist the committee in research, analysis, strategic planning, and preparation of a written report and recommendation outlining how the town can efficiently minimize greenhouse gas emissions and other activity that contributes to climate change, and develop preparedness plans to protect the citizens of the town, which appropriation shall be necessary in the event that the town's application for a planning assistance grant in 2024 from the Massachusetts Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs, EEA, is denied. The proposed motion reads, I move that the town vote to appropriate $50,000 for the purposes of hiring a consultant or consultants to assist the Climate Action Plan Committee in research, analysis, strategic planning, and preparation of a written report and recommendation outlining how the town can efficiently minimize greenhouse gas emissions and other activity that contributes to climate change, and develop preparedness plans to protect the citizens of the town. Said hiring and expenditures to be subject to approval by the town manager, and further to authorize the Climate Action Plan Committee, together with the town manager, to apply for and receive any available grants, including from EEA, which may render this appropriation unnecessary, and to meet this appropriation that $50,000 be transferred from free cash.
Is there a second? Thank you. Is there a second? Seconded by Carolyn Campbell. Okay, this is amended motion. Seeing no one's rising to debate this, going to ask for, like we did before, voice vote to accept the amended motion. You can see the red line pieces up here that have been changed. By voice vote, all those in favor of this amended motion, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, my ears tell me the motion passed. The amended motion passes. Ms. Cochran, go ahead.
Yes, if you could start my PowerPoint. I have a lot of slides to go through. I'll go through rather quickly, then happy to answer questions. This is the opportunity to answer what is our commitment to facing climate change. So I want to tell you tonight, what is a climate action plan? Who is the Climate Action Plan Committee? What have we been doing? Why are we doing it? And then why are we asking for contingency funding? Next, please. A climate action plan is a set of recommendations and potential solutions for the challenges and threats posed by climate change. Next, please. And a climate action plan is really divided into two things. One is strategies for reducing greenhouse gas emissions, which not only helps fight climate change, it's immediately having a positive effect in your own community because you're lowering air pollution. And the second part is adaptation and resilience to the threats actually that are going to come our way from climate change and try to protect our citizens. Next, please. Who has a climate action plan? That's not an exhaustive list, but that is a list of some of the towns in Massachusetts who have one, and Canton and Milton are in process at this point. Next, please. I want to introduce you to members of the committee. Rachel Lazarus, who is here with me, who is a mother of three and a library trustee. Aisha Oloyede Edwards, who is new to serving on town committees. We welcome her. James Conlon, who is the town's environmental affairs officer, and town meeting members Laura Gunn, Michael Horan, Janet Weinstein, myself, and then, of course, Kathy Stanley, who is a consultant for the town. She's the town energy manager. Next, please. Just want to clarify that our meetings have almost since the inception been hybrid or virtual meetings. Anybody can join in. Our agendas are posted with the clerk's office. Meetings are recorded on SMAC. Most of the agendas have public comments, and then the minutes are posted or delivered to the town clerk's office for posting. What have we been doing? Next slide, please. Just to begin with, we issued a survey. There's actually surveys that are outside on the tables out there. We appeared at Stoughton Day and started to try to get answers to those surveys, and Rachel here has done an analysis of a survey. She'd be happy to answer any questions about the survey. Next, please. So amongst our activities, we have been doing a lot of meetings. We actually had Select Board member Mr. McCrisky came to one of our meetings, kind of a surprise visitor, but it was great to have him here and talk to him. We have met with the town manager, with Dr. Bayetta, at the school committee. We've met with the high school recycling club, or had one of their members attend. We met with a number of town officials. We had a speaker from Mass DEP come to one of our meetings. I've personally spoken to 4 different engineering consultants and got some quotes on consultant costs for drafting a plan, which are in the backup material. I've been in touch repeatedly with the chair of the Canton Climate Action Plan Committee, and so forth. Next, please. Wanted to spend just 1 second. I attended a webinar involving a new program which municipalities are excited about. It's the IRS elective pay or direct pay program, whereby if you qualify for the program for a clean energy project, unlike a grant where it's very competitive, if you meet the criteria, you can have a project and you know that the IRS is going to cover a significant portion of that project. So it's a really great development for towns looking to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Next, please. A key part of a climate action plan is community engagement. Trying to have discussions and outreach with all citizens and stakeholders. Certainly we want to promote climate awareness. We attended Stoughton Day, but more significantly, we did have a public forum, which we publicized as much as we could on February 24th at the library. We handed out a handout involving action items, action steps that people can take. There's a link to that on our website with the town. We would really encourage people to take a look at that. And also we had appeared on SMAC and were interviewed by Joe Feaster a couple of weeks ago, and that went really well. So why are we doing this? Next slide, please. Because as NASA says, global climate change is not a future problem. Yeah, changes to the Earth's climate driven by human Increased human emissions of heat-trapping greenhouse gases are already widespread and having a profound effect on the Earth's environment. Next, please. One of the areas of concern, and I have a newspaper clipping here, is really heat-related deaths. We know that there were a lot of heat-related deaths last summer, mostly in the Southwest. But I have an article here from this week's newspaper that says the threat to people from extreme heat has reached a point where we have to rethink how, at all levels of government, we are preparing and putting in place a response that matches the severity of the problem. And it goes on to say that an estimated 2,300 people in the United States died from heat-related illnesses in 2023. So that raises the question. I know we're in the Northeast, but still, is Stoughton prepared for such an event? Next, please. Just want to remind people of the horror of the Canadian wildfires that happened last summer, where all the way, many, many hundreds of miles away, throughout cities in the United States were affected by the very poor air quality, including I have a relative living in another state. I said, do not go out and run in this weather. It's just, the air quality was very, very poor. Next, please. Just bringing it home, climate change is going to have and has already had an impact on being able to afford and obtain property insurance because of all the extreme weather events and all the damage that is coming from climate change. And when I look at that and think of people not being able to insure their property, I think that really goes right to the heart of the American dream, if that's at risk. And then next, please. There's a profound impact, of course, on public health from climate change. The World Health Organization references how it impacts health in a myriad of ways, from frequent extreme weather events such as heat waves, storms, and floods, disruption of food systems, increases in zoonosis in food, water, and vector-borne diseases, and mental health issues. And even the American Medical Association in 2022 declared that climate change was a public health crisis that threatens the health and well-being of all people. And along the lines, I found an article this week about due to extreme weather, drought, floods in Africa, they now have a problem with cholera, and that has been very, very deadly in Africa as well. And moving right along, next slide, please. And then migration, obviously, you can imagine that extreme heating of the planet is going to cause some very challenging migration issues. And certainly for those of us who live in the northern latitudes will experience those issues. All right, next slide, please. So let's get to the money. So why do we need to retain a professional consultant? Well, I think if you look at other climate action plans, they're all available online, you'll see that a professional consultant was involved. But to develop specific objectives and goals, using data and engineering models to help identify funding sources, and that's going to be critical. And I would tell you that IRS program, I went to the webinar, I tried to figure out, follow the steps, and it actually was very difficult to follow, so a professional could help. To present cost-benefit analysis, that's kind of obvious. You might say, how many years will it take until this project, this energy conservation project, pays for itself? To bring community engagement experience to the table, to really be able to engage with the community better than perhaps we could on our own, and to bring credibility and weight to the report. And just wanted to point out, the town has a master plan every 20 years, and it updates it, I believe, every 10 years. And they also hire outside consultants to help with that master plan report. Next slide, please. Grant support. When we brought our original article last year, we actually had an MAPC grant application pending, which we were optimistic about. There was a reference in that article to authorizing the town manager to apply for grants. In the fall of 2023, we were sort of waitlisted by MAPC, didn't really know what was going to happen, and we're told to go get an EEA grant. Waiting for the EEA grant to come around. I've been in touch quite a lot with Pam McCarthy, who's been very helpful through this process. At a meeting in March of 2024, we were told by the EEA that they're not doing planning grants this year. So when I appeared before the committees with my $100,000 ask, I was under the impression that we definitely weren't getting an EEA grant. Then I got a confusing email from MAPC the week before a town meeting. I picked up the phone, talked to Jerry Miku at MAPC, and he said, well, we're going to give you some threshold support, not money, but some support. We're going to file the EEA grant application on your behalf, but you may not get it. You're not going to know until August, so you should go ahead with your article and ask for $50,000 to $75,000. I put that email in the virtual table. So that's how we ended up here. We're asking for backup contingency funding if our EEA grant application, which MAPC is going to actually do the application for us, obviously we need to sign off on it. If that doesn't come forward in August, we want to go forward with an RFP like the town of Canton has to hire a consultant for $50,000, which is a pretty modest sum. And I think that's it. I'd be happy to take questions from anybody, and my committee members are here with me as well, and they could help out with some of the questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, time for technical questions. One question each. Who is first? Mr. Kirby?
Bob Kirby, Precinct 6, through you, Mr. Moderator. Last year, when you came requesting that this body vote on creating a climate committee, it was under the premise that it would not cost us any money. And now you're coming asking for $50,000. Does this $50,000 include a GHG study? Because any consultant is going to say it absolutely is going to take a GHG study to execute their goals, and then they're going to perhaps look at a full-time personnel on the town staff to manage the climate change. Because as I read the three different.
Do you have a question in there?
Well, yes. I mean, last year they said no money. Now you said 50, but it really sounds to me like what by your own evidence in your supporting documents that the consultants there said you need a GHG study and so forth. So that's another $50K. It doesn't seem like that's even included in there.
Thank you. I'm happy to answer that question, and it's an entirely fair question. So as I tried to explain, as I raced along and talked probably too fast, is that when we brought the original article last year, we already had an MAPC grant pending to fund drafting a climate action plan, to fund the consultant support. Quite frankly, at this point, I have not been proven entirely wrong, because almost a year later, MAPC has finally said, we're going to give you some threshold support, not a check, but now you also should get EEA funding. We're not guaranteeing you get EEA funding. So it may turn out by August we get the EEA grant funding and we don't need to go to this contingency. But I also appreciate your second part of your question about the greenhouse gas inventory. I'm happy to say that the Energy and Sustainability Committee has also in the past done a greenhouse gas inventory. It's kind of complicated, but the tools are can be public source to do it through MAPC. They have done an updated greenhouse gas inventory. So our plan would be to take that and to present it to the consultant. You know, maybe they want to ask some questions about it, maybe they want to tweak it, but that, first of all, wouldn't cost $50,000 alone. But secondly, the work has been done already, so we think we can hit the ground running. We don't need to recreate that. Thanks.
Okay, thank you both. Next up is Juan Fox.
Juan Fox, Precinct 1. Given the amount of people that you have working on the committee, when you have a lot of people working on the committee,
move the microphone up.
Precinct 1.
Tilt it up.
Tilt the microphone. There you go.
Given that you have so many people on the committee to do work on the committee, as I'm sure they dedicated themselves to do, why do you feel it necessary to hire someone else when you could do it for free amongst the people that you have?
Thank you. I mean, you could ask the same question of why does the town hire a consultant to do a master plan when they have a full staff of people? We couldn't even come close to replicating. I think that's why that slide I tried to be detailed about. I can't do, first of all of us on the committee, perhaps except with one exception, have one or two exceptions, have jobs. We have mothers of very young children. We have people who travel extensively for their jobs. We have people who are really stretched to the limit. I think anybody who's active on very busy town committees can appreciate that. You know, I can type. I'm good at typing, quite frankly. I can type the introduction, but I can't do the engineering analysis. I don't have an engineer's brain. I'm not a scientist either. I can't do the cost-benefit analysis. For example, as I saw in the Globe recently, they were talking about your home improvements. If you do X and spend X thousands of dollars to get a heat pump, how many years till that pays for itself? There's no way in God's earth that people who are volunteers could do that. They have expertise in doing community engagement. And they can figure out what, and chase down the funding sources. And I will tell you, I literally tried with the IRS Direct Pay program to follow the information on the IRS website and follow, and then I just gave up. It's that's just beyond my reach. And I will say, so Kathy Stanley, who's a member of our committee, she works for about 6 towns or so. She is a consultant. She is very busy with the town, and quite frankly, she's very busy working with the schools right now and putting forward a very complex federal grant. She is not going to be drafting or typing or doing all the analysis and all the areas that would be involved in a climate action plan. Certainly we'll tap into all the resources we have with the town, and we're happy to have the town officials support, but there's no way, and again, if you want to pull up any of those climate action plans and look at the introductions, you'll see that they were supported. And actually, let me ask Rachel.
One quick thing. Hi, thank you. This is really exciting to be here. I just wanted to say that this is a very complex topic with a lot of different moving parts. We could possibly pull together while I am putting the kids to bed and also doing the cost-benefit analysis, since I do have a degree on that. The point of getting a consultant in some ways is to increase the efficiencies, which would decrease the costs of doing this to the town. People who are experts in this will be able to find other sources of funding that we might overlook because of our inexperience. So it really is, once again, we might not even need this money because, again, grants are somewhat. If you have a grant person, like someone who's completely focused on this, they can delve in a way that an ordinary person can't. An archaeologist can find things that I can't find digging my backyard.
Thank you. All right, next up is Jonah Rosenblatt.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that, first of all, I believe in protecting the environment. I use a rain barrel. I use gray water. I take care of my table scraps. I try to do what I can for the environment because I feel that's important. But when it comes to climate change, I can't see spending money on this. First of all, a lot of the sites claim...
Is there a question, Jonah?
Yes.
Okay.
A lot of the sites claim that in the last 800,000 years, the temperature has gone up 1 degree Celsius. Fine. But what they don't tell you, and what they purposely hide from you, is the previous 800,000 years, we were hotter then than we are now. So for us to take money and waste
Jonah,
it...
You need to ask a question, or you can wait till the pro and con debate.
Then my question is, why are we wasting money on something that isn't true and valid when here we've got a place where they were going to build on toxic wasteland and that was perfectly okay? Why aren't we worried about environmental concerns that are real rather than climate change that isn't?
Well, it's not really pertaining to this article. This article is on climate action plan committee consultant.
But it is pertinent because I asked
You're
about...
comparing one to the other.
But it is pertinent to the degree that I'm asking, why are we wasting money on something that isn't real when we've got other things that are real and we're not spending money on that?
Please, in the background, no conversation, please. Would you be able to answer her briefly? Just your opinion?
No comment.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
That figures because you don't...
Okay, thank you. Next up, Mariana.
Marina Ryans, Precinct 7. So I listened to this presentation, and I'm sorry to say that it wasn't convincing, so you failed to make any sense. Why would we need
this? Is there a question? I'm going to ask everybody first.
Yes.
No comments anymore. Questions. Otherwise, I'm going to rule everybody out of order.
So
question has to be a question up front.
Yes, sorry.
Go ahead.
So to me, it's unclear. Why would we need this consultant? What's the benefit, and what exactly this consultant is going to do besides administration and blur? And You're trying to save the, it's a climate committee against what? Against the climate change. The climate is going to change regardless. So why would we need this consultant? What's the benefit for the town?
I'm happy to address. I mean, one of the things is, as you said, the climate's going to change anyways. Well, hopefully we'll arrest the worst impacts. But nonetheless, climate change has been experienced, will be experienced in the coming years. It's to make sure we have a safety plan that covers every potential extreme weather event. So, flooding, heat waves, power outages, prolonged issues such as that. And I think that that's, a comprehensive look needs to be taken to that, and you can be inspired by looking at other towns' climate action plans, but you have to tailor it to your town and to your residents and what risks that you might face there. And I'm sure, quite frankly, it's not hard to imagine that people who might be disabled, people who might be on oxygen tanks, people who might be elderly and not have air conditioning, are the most at risk. And we want to make sure that those things are thought through and that there's a plan.
Thank you, but I'm sorry it wasn't
Okay,
convincing.
thank you. Okay. Next up, Lisa Lyons.
Hi, Lisa Lyons, Precinct 2. So I'm just deeply concerned about the fear-mongering and hysteria. You showed on one of the slides that there
Question,
were at least a half a dozen towns that have climate action plans already in existence.
Is there, excuse me, I'll ask the question. Next time, I'll ask you to leave the auditorium if anybody speaks up. All right? Lisa Lyons, please ask your questions. Direct question. One question. Get right to it.
Excuse me.
No, excuse me. Please get to it.
I am in the process of asking it.
Okay, it sounds like a long-winded comment. I'm asking you to ask your question.
We're spending more time on this than me asking
I know
my
we are.
question.
That's why I want you to get to the point.
Well,
Please.
I'm doing my best
Okay,
there,
well,
Mr. Moderator.
Move right along, please.
Okay, so again, with all the fear-mongering and hysteria, I am concerned based on your slide that you had up there with at least a half a dozen towns that already have plans in place, and a lot of those towns were surrounding towns. Stoughton is very close. Why ever would we spend our hard-earned money instead of utilizing their plans and adapting it? I'm just deeply concerned that we recreate the wheel here in Stoughton instead of utilizing what people have put effort into before. That's my question.
We're happy certainly to take advantage of the analysis and the work and the thoughts and the creative thoughts, quite frankly, that have been done in many other towns as a launching pad. But it also, part of it is community engagement and coming up with our own creative thoughts or our own ways in which we want to address it. I mean, you can read 5 action plans, you get to the 6th one, then you come up with a really interesting idea that somebody wanted to do in the 6th town, whether it was a school-related issue or whether it was a library of things where, people can share things versus, again, some of these things we may not do in our town. But I do think you need to be, tailored to the risks and the harms of your town, of what might happen from extreme weather events. It's not a cookie cutter thing. It's not a cut and paste thing. If it were, then, we would have done it already, quite frankly. Yes, please, Rachel.
And also, I think that's a great point, and some of the ideas are going to be used. Again, one of the reasons we want to bring in a consultant is to be able to marry some of the ideas along together with the special things that Stoughton has, the conservation areas that Stoughton has. I also have a lot of people asking me, like, is this going to cost us a lot of money? And they're very concerned about tax rates going up, and I am also concerned about that. This is why we're doing the cost-benefit analyses. We don't want to just copy wholesale from another town things that don't work. So this is exactly why. You don't want to waste money, we don't want to waste money, so we need to tailor it to Stoughton. We can't just copy half a dozen things off of other places. We need to look at Stoughton things, we need to have that deep knowledge. And we have to make sure that it's cost efficient. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Dave Laurie.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Through you, Dave Laurie, Precinct 6. I'm questioning whether or not you are expanding the scope and contradicting last year's article. So the contradiction is that you weren't going to bring money in. You did in this article, but also the slides that this money would be spent on is different than what we were presented last year. So why did you change the scope in the middle of your committee's work when we already knew that we were putting in place a committee of, people who have other jobs, they're volunteers, they have responsibilities outside of the committee. We already knew that they were, lay people on the subject. So why was the scope and the contradictions in place when we could have known that last year, and you could have asked for a consultant last year instead of telling us that it costs money to do it?
Right. As the lawyers would say, asked and answered, but I'm happy to answer it again through you, Mr. Moderator. As I explained, first, we haven't exchanged the scope. A climate action plan is a climate action plan. It has two major issues. It's reducing greenhouse gas emissions amongst the town and amongst the town community. And it has being prepared for and thinking through preparedness for extreme weather events and dangerous events. As I explained before, and it is confusing, so and I'm sorry, but bear with me. We had a pending grant. We believed we were going to get the grant. There was a reference in the original article from last year to applying for a grant or to obtaining a grant. We got waitlisted on the grant, and right now the level of support we're getting from MAPC is not going to be buying a consultant. It's going to be that they're going to come in and do some community engagement and other things that, quite frankly, were vague. I couldn't get them to be more precise. They are telling me we need to hire a professional at a cost of $50,000 to $75,000 to complete a climate action plan. Again, the hope was that MAPC would do it all before. I don't have any inside scoop with MAPC, okay? I'm just a citizen. And my understanding and my belief and expectation was that I would not have to come back for money. And I just want to clarify, I'm not sneaking around behind the back of town committee and saying, oh, please give me the money because the grant didn't come through. I'm coming and asking you, and I'm asking you to do it in a broad-minded way with the interests of future generations. We spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to make this a lovely, wonderful town for kids to live in, including playing fields and new playgrounds. Let's think about their life when they're, beyond 8 years old. What is their life going to be like? What are we preparing for them? Are we taking action while there's still time to take action? And I'm sorry that it's not necessarily going to be free. I'd be thrilled if that grant comes in and we save the $50,000. It's not about the money. Some people choose not to believe in climate change for whatever reason, but which. Sorry.
Maybe I can add to that. We all know, and we've heard from multiple articles, that grant funding is not a done deal. It is. These are things that we kind of hedge our bets on. We do the best we can with the information that we have in terms of what grants are available to us and what grants we think are the highest probability of getting. Mr. Coulter, who's been involved in a lot of the discussions with us, and maybe you could comment on what the receptiveness of the state is and how they're seeing what the grant is, through you, Mr. Moderator.
Briefly, if you don't mind, Mr. Coulter.
Thank you very much for the question. The town of Stoughton receives millions of dollars per year in grant money. Mark Tisdale's department alone is several million dollars. Water and sewer is several million dollars. MSBA is helping us build schools. We get millions of dollars in grant money. But what the federal and the state government are looking for is the town's commitment to its cause. If this town body says no to $50,000 as a contingency, we will not be eligible for grant money. The state would say, why the heck would we invest in this project, this cause, this study, this plan for Stoughton, if Stoughton isn't willing to invest in this plan for Stoughton? This is not a debate about climate change, global warming, or any of that. It's a strategic discussion as to whether we want to leverage our money to receive grant money, not limited to $50,000, to do plans, contingency plans that support this town in a time of environmental crisis. It's really that simple. To get caught up in a debate on the earth warming is not what's at hand here. It's, do we want to leverage our money like we did with MSBA, with a vote of this body, to do something that can put us in the forefront of contingency planning? I would strongly recommend you do this for $50,000. The likelihood of us getting the grant, if we do this, makes us not having to spend that money a lot better than if we vote it down. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next up is Paul Bellevue.
Paul Bellevue, Precinct 3. With your experience with consultants, have they assisted towns in restructuring their building codes, requiring such things as new buildings having geothermal and solar panels and becoming quite self-sufficient?
I can't speak in detail. Some of those issues come up, but I think really the point of a plan is to make propose ideas, suggestions, and recommendations. There's nothing in the plan that's going to change the building code. I know, for example, Sharon has it under discussion. It's not appropriate for every town. It depends on your housing stock, and all sorts of, cost-benefit analysis, all sorts of complex reasons. But, the point of the plan is to show that there's choices and alternatives and options out there, and then for the town to really engage in a meaningful discussion as to what they might want to do.
Can I have one more question?
Nope, that's it. Thank you very much. One question. Michael Hodman?
Mike Hardman, Precinct 8. Molly, I know this building was built efficiently and we saved a lot of money. Can you talk about the money you saved on this building and what it would mean to do similar things in the town?
That would be out of order.
Would it be?
Yeah, if I let you ask that question, other people are going to somehow...
No, I just want to know, are we going to save money on
Well,
that?
this is about hiring a consultant.
Yeah, we're going to save money hiring a consultant to get to that point.
You want to rephrase your question?
Yeah.
This has to do with hiring,
Yeah.
paying $50,000 for a consultant.
The consultant's going to help us get to the point where we're going to save money. Is that true?
I would say absolutely. That's the point of the cost-benefit analysis. It all starts with energy conservation measures, and that saves everybody money in the long term. I can tell you that Kathy Stanley and the work that she's been doing through the Green Communities Grant has been extremely effective in lowering energy costs for the town. But there's a lot of buildings and there's a lot of work to do there. And just to jump on what Mr. Coulter said, Kathy Stanley's working on a very complex school-related federal grant. And part of that grant is to have committees say, we support that. So that she wanted to talk with our committee and the Energy and Sustainability Committee to see if we would support pursuing that grant. So community support by taking these types of measures is really putting you in a much better position of competing for those grants. Like why do we want other towns and Massachusetts to get ahead of us and get the benefits that we don't?
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I think you answered the questions. Let's move on to pro and con debate. Anybody pro and con debate?
You go first.
Okay, there's going to be a lot of questions. You have to be very germane to this article on your comments. Looked like everybody moved up at the same time.
I was first.
I tried to get up first.
Okay, Paul Demuse, I think you were first. We're looking at the action cam down here. You were first.
Paul Demuse, Precinct 2. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. First, I want to say it doesn't make you a climate change denier if you don't believe in a local climate action committee. We have the federal government. We have the state. We don't need local government piling on. First, this was zero cost. Now they're looking for $50,000. Next year, it'll be more money. Then they'll ban lawn mowers that are gas-powered. It's a slippery slope. Let's be careful and be done with these activist committees. Thank you.
Okay, moving on. I'm going to go with Juan Fox.
Juan Fox, Precinct 1. The committee told this town meeting last year that no one in the committee would be paid. And I think this also implied that no one associated with the committee would be paid as well. But now they're asking for a large sum of money to pay somebody. Now, the grant is supposed to pay for it for this person, and we can't say boo about it. But we can say something about switching around and having $50,000 if that falls through. And that $50,000 is a lot of money. I also don't think that the committee that requires a person to believe as they do before they can be part of the committee should be monetarily supported by the town meeting. Additionally, there is many people in this auditorium who do not believe in anthropogenic climate change and who don't want the town wasting resources on the idea. And go ahead in your committee but keep our money out of it.
Thank you. Next up is going to be Scott Carrara.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Just to put a little information out, that Stoughton is a green community. If John Anzavino was here, he would have jumped right out all over it. We have certain building regulations now under being a green community, and I'm surprised you don't know, Paul, from being on the planning board, that when you build, they have to have certain kind of H factors and all that go into these new buildings. Just like this new school that's coming in will be even more efficient than the new high school. So that answers that. I just read yesterday in the paper, I know people don't like to read the papers, but I still do. Last year we were in an El Nino year. That's called a warm climate. Everything that came from the Pacific was right off the water, was hot. This year we're going to go into a La Nina, which I don't want to happen because I don't want to feel like plowing 10, 12 inches of snow 3 times a month. So things change. It doesn't have to do with who's running a lawnmower or burning more fuel. It's how the earth is accessing. And if it's heavy in the Siberia, we're going to get the snow. So I'm just putting that out there that no matter what we do here, $50,000 in a grant isn't going to straighten out El Nino or La Nina.
Thank you. Moving along, next up is Mr. Kirby.
Bob Kirby, Precinct 6. I did take the time to go through all the attachments in Book 2 and not only read these consultants' proposals, but I went to the towns that were listed and read their climate plans. And I think it was Sudbury who, maybe Kleinfelder, said we would be the most similar to. The opening statement in their climate action plan was, because climate change poses an existential threat to humankind and so forth. The premise of it was in the alarmist camp, saying existential threat, and therefore everything that followed was under this predicate that if we don't do X, Y, and Z, then we're giving away the farm. So what ends up happening in these climate plans is they need to have a greenhouse gas study or an inventory. So you have to spend money on that. One of these towns hired a full-time climate person to be the interface for all these issues. And then they're looking at buildings, transportation, in different categories. And they're looking at sustainable technologies and so forth. So they're going to lead us down the path of electrifying the entire fleet and those kinds of things, because that's when you hire a consultant, he's got to justify himself, and so he's going to make recommendations. Well, if you're going to improve your transportation fleet, you got to go electric. Well, there's municipality after municipality across the country, and if you Google it, you can find so many cities that have lamentingly looked back at their investments and saw a crushing effect. For example, one city spent millions of dollars on an electric fleet. The actual manufacturer no longer supports that, and they had to scrap the entire thing. So thousands of vehicles no longer usable, and it was a wasted project. The Department of Energy for the United States, headed by Buttigieg, was just asked, you have a goal of 500,000 charging stations by 2030. How is it that you've only built 7 to date?
Okay, time's up. Mr. Kirby, time's up.
A lot of money, big ambitions.
Thank you for your comment. Next up is John Rock.
Hello, my name's John Rock. I'm from Precinct 3. First, I want to commend the committee, the group of volunteers who volunteer their time to study this problem and, work for the town of Stoughton free of charge. Now, there's plenty of committees that start out and find that the work that they had planned to do is beyond their scope, and this is one of them. And I commend them for reducing the amount they requested from $100,000, which I was skeptical about, to $50,000, and it's only seed money. They will only use it if they don't get the grant, and so we don't know if they'll use it or not. So I do believe that climate change affects humanity, and even if you don't believe, just in case it does, let's have a little contingency. But I fully support this article. I urge you to do the same. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next up is Lisa Lyons.
Hi, Lisa Lyons, Precinct 2. So while I am wholeheartedly in favor of having a healthy climate, I object to this spending of $50,000 because, as stated in a presentation of this Climate Action Committee, they said in their report could actually lead to mandates. And we have already seen, I am for educating and encouraging all the time. My concern is for dictatorial mandates coming down, and I do not want my tax dollars spent in this manner. And I hope everyone votes no.
Okay, thank you. Moving along, Peggy Seward.
Peg Seward, Precinct 2. This is one of the pressing problems of our time, climate change. The young people in America are mobilizing to change things. What are we going to tell our young children one day when we say we didn't support everything that we could to change our air, our water, and our soil? The things that you can't see falling from the air are affecting our food supply, our air quality that we have, and everything in our lives. It's at the early stages, so we need all the help that we can get. Please, townspeople, vote this article quickly and support this fine group. Let me thank you for the time that you've spent doing this research. It's one of the probably best committees that I've seen, and the information that they've given us tonight is wonderful. So please, please, pass this article.
All right, thank you. Next up is Steve Wilkinson.
Steve Wilkinson, Precinct 4. I attended the budget meeting a few weeks ago in the Great Hall, and when the experts were asked what's the most important thing our town can do to get better rates on bonds, to have a better financial future for our town, they said planning, planning, planning. This is planning. This puts us in a position where we can go to our people we want to borrow money from and say, we're thinking ahead, we're looking at what might hurt the town, and we've got a plan to address it. And I hope you'll support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, I'll take Peter Ventresco.
Peter Ventresco, Precinct 8. Some of the questions I was going to, well, part of my, was going to say it's been done already by previous speakers, but in the grand scheme of things, what we're doing here, spending this money, amounts to nothing. Because the DEP, the EPA, they're taking care of the whole country. And we are, America, the cleanest country in the world. So I don't know how much cleaner we can get. But now everybody's saying the world's going to burn up. Well, I disagree. 80-some-odd years ago when I was a kid, the summers were a lot hotter, way hotter, and the winters were a lot colder, a lot more snow. Now, earlier somebody mentioned solar and wind panels. That's going to disappear within 20 years because technology moves so fast it'll be useless. And up in Alaska, years back, they took borings thousands of feet down. And they examined them borings, and it tells you what the world was like thousands of years ago, up until the present. And it's the world goes in cycles. We're just going through a cycle now, but it's not as bad as what everybody's saying here. So, as one previous person on the other side mentioned earlier, 8,000 years ago, the weather was better than what it is now. So I'm against this article. Save the $50,000 and use it for something better to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, David Billow.
Thank you, Dave Billow, Precinct 4. Also, the Vice Chair of the Energy and Sustainability Committee. Just a couple of quick things. The Energy and Sustainability Committee has done a series of greenhouse gas inventories. The most recent one was for 2022. It's going to potentially be supporting the work of the Climate Action Plan. Stoughton generated 267,000 metric tons of CO2 in 2022, if you're interested. Green Community was mentioned. That our committee helped put that through. The town of Stoughton has gotten over $1 million of grants from the Commonwealth because we're a green community. Wouldn't have that if we didn't. You've got 8 dedicated citizens here. I think we can all be proud of the citizenship that's shown in this room. We've got people who've stepped up even more so. They're asking for some help from the town. It's an important issue. I don't think there's any question we need to do something. Planning, of course, is important, and I support this article. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next up is Jonna Rosenblatt.
Thank you. This committee has open meeting laws against them. They have not posted their minutes consistently because so many times they don't even have a quorum. So how
Jonna, you got to stay. I know it has something to do with the committee, but not the article.
Thanks.
So stay on point with the article.
Okay, I am, but I'm just saying, how seriously can we take them to give them $50,000 of our money if they don't even they're not serious enough to even show up to the meetings for most of the time. There's so many meetings they don't even have a quorum. And then I'm trying to also talk about the transparency that is lacking. When I went to them and asked them...
Mr. Moderator, I thought we were going to focus on this article.
Excuse me, I have the floor, not you.
Both of you, calm down. Take a moment.
Molly.
Jonna, I'm going to ask you to please focus on the article at hand.
Okay.
Not about open meeting law violations.
Okay.
I don't control that. It's up to the Attorney General's office. That's a whole different agency. So please focus on this article.
Thank you, I will.
Comments need to be germane to the article.
Okay. When I went to them and asked them about the issue with the electric batteries exploding and catching on fire and we can't put them out, they just ignored my question. I've still to this day never had any response. So when I go to this committee, and I'm a Stoughton resident.
Jonna, again, tell me how you feel about this article. That's fine.
Okay, then I'll go back to my original comment about the fact that not the last 800,000 years, but the years preceding that, we were hotter than we are now as a planet. So why are we going and giving $50,000 to chase after something that isn't even factual? There were no cars, there were no gas emissions then, there weren't even people that were factoring into the mix. So why are we giving them money for that? I'll leave it at that.
Okay, I'll take that as a rhetorical question. Thank you very much. Moving on. Next up is Arnold Feinberg.
Arnie Feinberg, Precinct 6. My concern is twofold, and since a lot of people have already said part of the things I want to say, I'm just going to briefly discuss this. A $50,000 consulting fee is going to start leading to more money. They are going to be asking us to do other things, and they're going to want more money. I think this is just going to spiral out of control. And the other thing, too, is I believe these consultants are going to start asking us to mandatorily dictate what we do in our yards. Example, banning gas lawnmowers, banning other things like that. And I just feel this $50,000 is going to spiral out of control in the future.
Okay, thank you. Next up, John Linehan.
John Linehan, Precinct 1. Being asked to move the question, but I'm not. I just want to say we have been through this whole town meeting for all of May. We have spent millions of dollars for the benefit of our town, and it is widely accepted by the scientific community that this is the greatest threat we face. And this $50,000 investment, and when I think of it, for my kids, for my grandkids, what little bit Stoughton can do to move this ball ahead, I totally support this as a very reasonable expense.
So I support this article and hope everybody else will as they think about the young people that aren't here today.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving along. Mariana?
I was going to move the question, but I
Well,
decided not
okay.
to. Yeah, no, I'll just make a comment.
Don't say that, please. Just, if
sorry.
you're not going to move it, don't say it. I can't read your thoughts. I'm not interested in,
just repeat it.
just only your comments.
Sure. I don't see the reason of having $50,000 for this committee that really didn't prove anything for us. I think it's too expensive to hire some doubtful, to me, consultant that really we don't need. So there are so many other environmental engineers, consultants that do their job, and scientists. So I don't see the reason to have this committee or to have the consultant. I do understand, when we ask, more we get money. But I do understand the budget, and I think we're in control of spending the money. So I believe strongly that $50,000 can remain in free cash fund, and we can spend it on reasonably on something that will benefit Stoughton and other projects that will benefit, citizens in Stoughton. So I'm voting against this, and I'm not in favor. I'm voting no. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Next up is Becca Moxton.
Becca Markson, Precinct 7, move the question.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah.
Second, who's seconding that?
I am.
Diane Dolan, seconding that. Carolyn Campbell? Okay, Carolyn Campbell spoke the loudest. She will record as being second in the motion. All right, this takes it 2/3, vote by voice vote. Moderator has to determine it's 2/3. All in favor of cutting off debate, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right, I determine that the majority rules. It's 2/3, more than majority, and the debate is cut off. At this point in time, would you like to do a quick summary?
Yes, just super quick, I just want to say this is not a committee that is empowered to issue mandates. This is a committee that would make proposed solutions, recommendations. It would be this town body's decision with respect to how it takes care of its buildings, et cetera, et cetera. And I just want to hope that, that we keep in mind that we do our job. We want to do our job as best we can, present a meaningful report that protects the citizens and moves Stoughton to an energy efficient and sustainable future. We hope you consider the article on its merits without respect to certain statements that have been made. And I just want to say we are at a point of crisis. And I ask us, what are our children going to say about us and about Stoughton when we had an opportunity to join other communities and adopt climate solutions? Did we step up to the plate or did we turn away? Thank you for your patience in listening tonight. And thank you to the town officials for their help.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation and your summary. Okay, this is the main motion as amended. Simple majority. All those in favor? What, excuse me? No, as amended, main motion as amended. It's from free cash, right? Yeah, from free cash. So it's simple majority. Please vote now. 1, 2, or 3. Get the right one. Okay, hang on a second. Can we stop it? Can we stop? Excuse me. You're gonna have to. If you have a issue, please rise to the microphone, state your name and your issue. Yeah, the plan is that we're going to start over.
All right, Dave Lurie, point of order. I voted once and then it got taken down. What happened?
I understand.
Yeah.
Technical difficulties.
So will we be voting?
We're going to repeat the vote.
And that's erased the first vote.
Yes. Give us a moment. Okay. Are we ready? Okay, we're going to be ready now. Simple majority, since it's transferring from. It's simple majority. Okay, go. 1, 2, or 3. Let me announce the vote first. Article 44 passes. 66 yes, 56 no, 0 abstentions. Mr. Hanson, if you have a point of order, please rise and go to the microphone, state your name and your point of order.
Because this is an appropriation, shouldn't it be a two-thirds vote?
What's that again?
Because this is an appropriation,
No,
does it require a two-thirds vote?
It's transferring from free cash. 2/3 is only if it's borrowing.
Thank you.
Okay, we're not borrowing, it was transfer from free cash. All right, thank you all for voting. Next up is Article 48. We completed 45, 46, was 47 in prior sessions. We're now turning to page 84, Article 48. And that's rescinding dedication of opioid settlement funds to the opioid stabilization fund. Page 84, 84 in your warrant books, 84. All right, hopefully everybody's there. I'm going to ask Vaughn and Okian for the motion.
That the town vote in accordance with General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53(4), added by Section 9 of Chapter 77 of the Acts of 2023, to revoke Article 64 of the 2023 Annual Town Meeting, which approved the dedication of 100% of the opioid settlement funds to be received to the Opioid Settlement Stabilization Fund, established under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40, Section 5B, effective for the fiscal year beginning on July 1, 2023.
Okay, is there a second? Second. Who seconded? Bob Cohn seconded that. Can I have the Finance Committee report, please?
The Finance Committee voted 8-3 to recommend the motion for Article 48 as written in the warrant.
Thank you. This does not have an amended motion, so that motion stands as you see it on the screen. Stephanie, could you introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Whoops. I'm a lot shorter than most of the other speakers, I guess. Stephanie Patton, I'm the prevention coordinator for the town of Stoughton. Thank you all. And so this article is actually just a simple housekeeping article. This there was some updated guidance from the Department of Revenue since the last time we all were here when we voted to create the stabilization account. And the DOR has updated their guidance to suggest that communities or tell communities to create a special revenue fund. And so really all that this article is about dissolving the stabilization account, moving the money into a special revenue account so that, so that we can use those dollars here in Stoughton.
Is that everything?
And that's it. There's a paragraph that explains it, and if people have questions, we can answer them.
Okay, thank you very much, Stephanie. Okay, time for technical questions. Anyone? Pat Colburn.
Pat Colburn, Precinct 4. I read this several times, and I'm sorry, I'm still not understanding. Will the money still be used for recovery only if it's in a special fund that I can't say the name of? And how will you use that money? A stabilization would have been a 2/3 vote. So how does money come out of that special fund?
Right, so we are still subject to all of the same guidelines from the Attorney General's office around, these are monies that are coming to us from all of the settlements that are going to continue to come in. And so it's just a different entry point for the town. You're right, it is a different budgeting process. So the stabilization account requires us to come to town meeting and present a budget. The special revenue account functions differently in the town, and actually that might be a better question for our town accountant if that didn't answer it for you.
I just want to make sure it's only used on recovery.
Yeah. It still has to follow all of the same requirements that it needs to be used towards opioid-related issues, the same as before. Yeah, so none of that changed.
Okay, I see. Shaking your head. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Seeing none. Moving on to pro and con debate. Any pro and con debate? Seeing nobody moving? I don't know, you moving down to the microphone? No? Okay, thank you. All right, we're ready for the vote then. This is just a simple majority, correct? Correct. Okay, are we ready to vote? Please vote, as you already are. 1, 2, or 3. Okay, Article 48 passes. 108 yes, 7 no, 1 abstention. Thank you all for voting. Moving right along, we did complete Article 49 back on May 8th. Let's turn to page 86, which is Article 50. Is there a motion on?
Yes.
I recognize Deborah Roberts.
Hello, everyone. Motion to withdraw, please.
You have a point of order? First of all, can I get a second? Seconded by George Stalinsky. Okay, you have a point of order?
I do. On Article 50, it's my understanding that our town clerk made this motion, and I'm not sure that she would want this dismissed. I would like to hear from her to see if she wants this dismissed, and I would also like an explanation as to why and who is making a motion to dismiss it.
Well, number one, there's no debate on dismissing or withdrawing.
Well, the maker of a motion
No,
should be
excuse
the
me,
only one
that's
to
the
do
rule.
that.
That's the rule, town meeting rules.
What is the town meeting rule? What are you referring to as the town meeting rule?
I'll defer to town council,
Okay.
if you don't mind.
Mr. Moderator,
It's not working.
hold on, let me get a little closer. So once an article is placed in the warrant and put in front of town meeting, it becomes the meeting's article, not any particular maker. This was inserted by the select board. So anyone can make a motion to dismiss or a substantive motion. That's part one. Part two is under town meeting time, which is the rule book that governs this as well as your local rules. If no motion is made or if there's a motion to withdraw or dismiss, it's not debatable. And so while the moderator might sort of de bene ask for a brief explanation on why that request is being made, it's not something that can be debated on the floor.
Another point of order through you, Mr. Moderator, to the attorney. Is it possible as a town meeting rep to make a motion that it not be dismissed and we hear from the maker
Motion's
of the
already-
motion?
I'll just, go ahead.
I'm going to say the same thing as you. A motion's been made and seconded. That's what's on the floor, and no other motion can be made until that's dealt with.
Okay, so we vote on that, and then if that fails, then would I be able to make a motion to hear from the maker?
If the motion fails, then you can rise.
Then we would be able to hear from the maker.
Right.
I think that's only right. We'll see what happens.
Right now,
Thank
it's a
you.
motion to withdraw / dismiss the article. I'm going to take a voice vote. This is simple majority, by voice vote. All those in favor of dismissing Article 50, please say aye. All those opposed? What do you think? All right, let's set up for a clicker so we have this guaranteed. Just take a moment. Ready? Ready? Okay, this is let's wait for it to come up on the screen. This is to dismiss Article 50. Yeah, dismiss and withdraw are the same. Yeah, just take a moment. Yeah, we're having some technical issue. We're getting it resolved. Okay, take your time. Yeah, it's going to be a few minutes because the laptop is frozen a little bit. We just got to give it a second to reboot, I believe, or unfreeze. Okay. It'll just take a few more minutes.
Excuse me, Mr. Moderator, may I make another point of
order?
Thank you.
Is it?
If this, can we have part of this motion be dismissed with prejudice or without prejudice so it can come back in the fall?
Motion-
As a friendly amendment to the
I'll
motion?
have town council, I'll defer to town council.
I'm
on
not
that
sure of
question.
the wording on that, Mr. Counselor,
Sure.
through you, Bob.
Mr. Moderator, through you to the speaker, this town meeting can't bind the hands of a future town meeting. So, for example, it could be put on a fall town meeting warrant if there's to be a fall town meeting, and that's up to the select board when creating the warrant, a petitioner to file a petition, and then in the hands of town meeting. So you really can't do it with prejudice because town meeting has the right to act on an article if it's brought forward again.
Okay, hopefully we won't have to do that, but thank you.
Just bear with us, we just had to restart the laptop. It's rebooting right now, it's coming back up. Isn't this exciting stuff? I mean, what else are you going to do on Wednesday night? Well, we can, if it doesn't come back, we can, okay, well, if it doesn't come, well, first let's see if it comes back. The screen's back up. No, it's not up? All right. Yes, we can do a standing vote. Can count by the precinct chairs, how we did in the old days. Oh, that's true. We're not sitting in precincts. So that's a little bit of a problem. Thank you for the clarification. Appreciate it. Hey, I can't think of everything. By count. Mr. Dolinsky, I recognize you. You have to speak into the microphone.
Talk into the microphone.
Mr. Moderator.
Yes, George.
If we have to use the clicker screen with the numbers, can we go to another article, just use that? And
No, we're having problems with the laptop.
Excuse me.
Ms. Carolyn Campbell.
Sorry, I didn't realize it was that loud. Could we do standing account by precincts in order so that each precinct could do a count since we're not sitting together and we could maybe move this along a little bit? Go each precinct one at a time?
Yeah, I can call precincts one at a time. To stand, we do a count with the precinct chairs.
I second that.
Hang on a second, I'll need a second. Yeah.
I reached my limit.
Excuse me, Mr. Moderator.
Diane Dolan, I recognize you. Point of order?
Diane Dolan, Precinct 7. My point of order is, if this is dismissed tonight, we can bring it back in its entirety, correct, in the fall?
Yes, as town
So
council,
we won't have to worry about changing.
it's up to the,
wording.
it's up to the select board to insert that, or a petitioner to write it up.
But
So-
can it also be a
It can be brought
petitioned
up-
article as well?
It can be what?
A petitioned article?
It can be, yes.
Okay, all right.
So dismissal does not prejudice it at all. It's just, anybody can bring it back up. Have it inserted into the warrant. We're looking good? Yeah, we're just not sitting in precinct. Have to. George, can you come up here for a second? Okay, just to let everybody know, we're still having some problems with laptop. We lost internet service. No, I'm gonna try a standing. Well, I'll ask for this town. Okay, this is what I'm gonna ask everybody to do. Town meeting reps. Okay, only town meeting reps can vote. I'm gonna ask you to stand and have if I can have this section over here, George, you take that section. Is there a precinct chair in this section? Bob Kirby, can you count people in this section? In that section? Pat Yanakowski, can you count people in that section? And, yeah, can you take that section up there? And Diane Dolan, can you get the section behind you? All right, all those in favor of dismissing this case, this article, please stand. I'm saying, all those in favor of dismissing this article, please stand. Make sure you get counted. Article 50. Yeah, please, those who can stay standing, please remain standing until we know we got the count. Yeah. I just came over. Yeah. Right, well. We tried that. Well, let's see. George, do you have a count on that section? Okay, George has 19. Wait a minute, hold on a second, Diane. Bob Kirby? No, I just want to know who's standing. That's all I need to know. How many are standing? Did you? 15 that you counted standing. Okay. Over here, Pat Yanakowski, did you count everybody in your section over here? 10. Anybody count this front table? You counted them? Yeah. Did anybody count this over here? Okay. Who's up in the left up? You got 14. This middle section, Diane Dolan. 17. All right, I think that's everybody. Please sit. 19. I think it passed. Yeah, all those who oppose it, please stand so we know. George, you just count everybody, and Bob. Okay. George, how many you have? Hang. Bob Kirby? No, George just did. 10. Pat Yanakowski on that side? Zero. Diane? Zero. I only have 29 no. Diane, did you get those? That was 3. So I have 32 no. So the motion to dismiss passes. Did you double count me, George? 79? 79 to 32. Motion to dismiss passes on that. All right. Let's see if we can. Any luck on the laptop? No? All right. Okay, we're going to try to proceed this evening. The laptop? You good? Okay. Article 51, single serving. This is on page 87. Single serving drinking water plastic bottle reduction bylaw. It's a petition article. Could I have the petitioner come down front?
Mr. Moderator?
Mr. Moderator? Over here? Steve, you're doing it? Okay, great. Just hang on one sec.
No worries.
One sec. Okay, it's on page 87. Okay. Everybody should be there. Article 51. Steve, you don't have to read the entire thing if you don't want to. You can just read a couple of paragraphs and say it's written in the warrant, or if you want, it's up to you. You're the petitioner if you want to read the whole thing.
Okay. Article single serving drinking water plastic bottle reduction bylaw, citizen petition to see if the town will vote to amend the town code by adding the article as printed in the warrant entitled Single Serving Drinking Water Plastic Bottle Reduction Bylaw. Thanks, Carolyn.
Carolyn, second that. Okay. Just give me a... Okay, can I have the Finance Committee report?
Finance Committee voted 1 to 10 to recommend the motion for Article 51 as written in the warrant. The motion failed.
Can I have Municipal Operations Committee report?
Municipal Operations voted 1 yes, 2 no, 2 abstain to approve Article 51. Motion failed.
Can I have that vote again, Cynthia?
1 yes, 3 no, 2 abstain.
Okay, thank you very much. And municipal regulations.
Municipal regulations voted 2 to 5 to recommend Article 51 to town meeting. Motion failed.
Oh, John, okay, did you want to give we heard from Carmel. Okay, thank you, John. Appreciate that. You're right. Okay, time for the presentation. Steve, please introduce yourself to the body.
Steve Wilkinson, Precinct 4. Thank you. A young boy was walking along a beach upon which thousands of starfish had been washed up during a terrible storm. When he came to each starfish, he would pick it up and carefully throw it back into the ocean. He had been doing this for some time when a man approached and said, "Little boy, why are you doing that? Look at this beach. You can't save all these starfish. You can't begin to make a difference." The boy seemed crushed, but after a few moments he bent down, picked up another starfish, and put it into the ocean. Then he looked up at the man and replied, "Well, I made a difference for that one." One word, plastics. If I could have the next slide, please. Thank you. That word uttered by Mr. McGuire to Benjamin Braddock in 1967's The Graduate. Little did we know how prescient his advice on the future of this then new packaging material would become. Today, the next slide, please. Every one of us has plastic in our bodies. We ingest the amount of plastic in a credit card every week. It got there through our discards of plastic. That got into our environment, broken down into minute fragments, then ingested or taken up by the foods that we eat. It's in our vegetables, it's in our cows, it's in our fish, it's even in the water that you drink when you buy a plastic bottle of water. Researchers found 240,000 detectable plastic fragments in a typical liter of bottled water. We're getting our daily dose of plastic with every bite and sip, and we put it there. Who here thinks that ingesting plastic is good for our health? Next slide, please. Before going further, I think it's important to stress that this petition is not so much about litter. It is about pollution. It is about fixing our environment. It is about improving our health. It's like the PFAS issue of which we've all been made aware. Next slide, please. I'm not a scientist, but long story short, the production of plastic involves poison and chemicals that cause heart problems. These are what we're putting into our environment when we buy the typical plastic water bottle. Next slide, please. When we throw them away, they turn into methane and ethylene. Methane is a potent contributor to climate change. Ethylene helps to cause cancer. Plastic can take 10 to 1,000 years to completely biodegrade. This helps to explain why, since 2005, we see a peak in plastic pollution. The peak comes after plastic discards and means that it will get worse before it gets better because so much plastic has been discarded that is only beginning to degrade. If we don't do something now, it will continue to get worse. Next slide, please. People buy 1 million plastic bottles per minute, almost 1.5 billion per day. Despite many people's best efforts, plastic bottles get strewn about, and this trash ends up in all of us. Aren't we better than this? Next slide, please. It's not because people don't try. It's because a lot of what is intended for recycling doesn't get recycled. Only about 5% gets recycled in our country. Some plastics, like that in water bottles, is the kind of plastic that can only be recycled once or twice, then goes, you guessed it, into our environment, which means into us. Next slide, please. Most of us do our part, putting plastic into our recycling bins. Our sanitation workers are out there doing a fine job of collecting it and sending it for reuse. Despite this, only about 1/5 of 2 common plastics are reprocessed because it's cheaper to make new plastic than it is to make plastic from our discards. So even though we are trying to do the right thing, the industry that's selling us products in plastic is not. They've got us chasing arrows. And every time they make new plastic, they're releasing carcinogens and global warming gases into our environment. In addition to the plastic that ends up in our bodies, worldwide it is estimated that 583 billion water bottles were used in 2021. Even if 21% were recycled, that's 460 billion plastic bottles going who knows where. What do you think that plastic in our bodies is doing to us? Next slide, please. Microplastics cause damage to human cells in the laboratory at the levels known to be eaten by us via our food. It's hurting us. It's setting us up for disease. How do we fix this? Next slide, please. We take action. Reduce, reuse, recycle, in that order. Or an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. If we don't buy these, they won't end up on our streets, in our landfills, and in our bodies. We won't need to reuse or recycle. We can just reduce. Next slide, please. Governor Healy has taken a step in the right direction by stopping our state from buying single-use plastic bottles. She recognizes that we need to act locally to have an impact globally. Next slide, please. We won't stop the plastic invasion if we don't act to head it off at the pass. The pass is where it's created, and if it can't be sold, it won't be created. Next slide, please. Advanced recycling plants are a new process that promises to provide a solution to the inability of today's plants to keep up. Is this good? Yes. Is it the solution? No. Because even if these new plants were operating at full capacity, they would only raise the recycling rate by a single percentage point. The solution is reduce. If we reduce the amount of plastic we buy, we reduce the amount of plastic that's made, reducing the pollution that gets into us. Next slide, please. This is from the petition, and I won't bore you with reading it. I think it's pretty straightforward. Next slide, please. What we're stopping is in a narrow category. It's not going to completely solve our problem. It is one step in the right direction. By more and more of us taking this step, we'll make real progress. But it has to start. And we're here asking you to start, to consider the future of the people in our town and make a commitment to do better for all of us. Next slide, please. Again from the petition, here's the definition of where this will take place. Next slide, please. Here are some alternatives. Steel provides a durable, reusable container that insulates too. The refill stations shown here are common in retail establishments and at libraries, recreational centers, and rest areas. They could become common in retail establishments, with the retailer selling the bottles and collecting a fee for the water and the container. Aluminum, this is an aluminum bottle, is virtually infinitely recyclable and an easy substitute for today's plastic bottles. And it costs more to create an aluminum bottle from scratch than it does from recycling it. So the industry has an incentive to recycle aluminum that they don't have to recycle plastic. Glass is what we used before plastic. I remember as a kid going down to the corner store, buying a Coke for 10 cents, going back later and getting 2 cents for the bottle. It could make a comeback. The amount of oil to fill a given plastic bottle about 1/4 full is what's used to make a water bottle like this one. So for every one of these bottles, we're using just about that amount of oil. Is that a good use of our oil? Wouldn't you rather put it in your tank? Next slide, please. Many revolutions have begun in our Commonwealth. 20 Massachusetts towns have banned plastic bottles. Let's add our town to that list. Let's support the effort to make Massachusetts first again. Next slide, please. I hope we've laid this out in a way that registers and gives you what you need to vote for this article. I'd also like to thank those who paved the way with similar measures to make our town the best it can be. Next slide, please. A final thought. Single-use plastics are designed to have usable life from minutes to months, but the molecules last forever. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Wilkerson, for your presentation. Yeah, he read it, he said is printed in the warrant. That's okay, we got a second on it. Okay, yeah, it was seconded by Carolyn Campbell. Thank you for that clarification. Who's up first? Juan Fox? Okay, Mr. Fox, technical question, one question each.
Juan Fox, Precinct 1. What will be the impact in dollars on Stoughton businesses if this passes?
Hopefully there'll be no impact in an adverse direction because the retailers will be able to substitute glass bottles with aluminum bottles and other ways to get water to clients.
Okay, thank you. Next up is Carolyn Campbell.
I through you, Mr. Moderator. Do any of our neighboring communities have a bylaw like this?
Concord. Let's see. Not directly abutting Stoughton, no.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is David Laurie.
Thank you, David Lurie, Precinct 6, through you. I am wondering why we have a heavy-handed bylaw being asked for us to vote instead of seeing anybody starting a boycott against water bottles. Usually there's like an uprising of, grassroots efforts, but instead you come to the legislative body to vote on passing a heavy-handed, punishable kind of law. If it's so bad, why isn't there any boycotts?
Well, I don't really consider it to be heavy-handed, and I thank you for your question. I think the reason we've gotten to this point with this and other things that are causing adverse health effects is because other methods have not worked. And because this method has worked for similar measures in the past. This is the next step. It's a slight inconvenience, but I think that most people want to do what's right, and when they understand the issue, that they would support the effort.
Oh, Mr. Wilkins, can you move the microphone a little closer to you?
Sure.
Get closer.
How's this?
That's better. Could you repeat your answer regarding the boycott?
Yeah, as far as why we're bringing this to you as opposed to other methods, things like this have been attempted in other ways and have been unsuccessful. And things like this have been attempted in this way and have been successful in about 20 towns around the Commonwealth now. And as we pass this and other towns pass this, it gives the state more and more support to pass their existing bill to do the same thing. So the more support each town shows, the better chance we have of getting this plastic out of the stream and out of our bodies. Probably not our bodies, but the bodies of our kids who are coming behind us.
Okay, thank you very much. Next up is Arnold Feinberg.
Arnie Feinberg, Precinct 6. I'm wondering why you've got this draconian article that you want to pass, when what you should be doing is you should be asking...
Mr. Feinberg, is there a question?
Yes. Why aren't you trying to evoke aluminum bottles and glass bottles before you take away our plastic bottles? I think that would be a much better article to be able to put across than just cut it off cold turkey, and then we got to go to another town to go buy something.
Thank you.
So why aren't you going to, why did you do this instead of doing it a little more, less draconian?
Thank you for your question. The reason why we're doing this is because it has worked in other communities and because there are alternatives that could be easily substituted for the plastic bottles.
I think he did to Mr. Feinberg, please. He did it to the best of his ability. That's all we have to, that's all we can ask. So moving on, thank you. Jonah Rosenblatt?
Yes, you're not following a trajectory. I'm sorry?
First of all, okay, number one, please identify yourself.
Jonna Rosenblatt,
And
Precinct
speak up
7.
loud to the microphone.
Jonna Rosenblatt, Precinct
Can you speak a little louder? If you don't mind, it
No,
comes
I don't
across
mind. It's
pretty
just-
soft.
I'm sorry. Okay. Jonna Rosenblatt, Precinct 7.
That's perfect, thank you.
Right. Now I forgot my question. I'm sorry.
You want to come back when you remember
Yes,
it?
please. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Next up is Pat Colburn.
Pat Colburn, Precinct 4. Do you have any idea, I'm just thinking day one, if this passes and the stores have to clear their shelves and they're not prepared for the aluminum, the glass water bottles, do you have any idea cost-wise from the other communities? Because I know right now it's ridiculous, the markup on a bottle of water, and I'm just wondering what the cost is for a plastic bottle of water now versus what it will be if we go to this, say, aluminum.
Yeah, first off, it has 90 days from the time the Attorney General approves this before it goes into effect. So the stores have a pretty good chunk of time to prepare for it, sell off their existing inventory, and stock the new items. I don't know how the prices have or have not changed in communities that have implemented this. I do know that, Falmouth went to the aluminum bottles, and from what I was told by someone who lived there, it wasn't a big deal. They just made the transition. But I'm sorry, I don't know the difference in the cost after this was done as opposed to before.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Mariana, am I pronouncing your name right?
Marina.
Marina, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Marina.
Marina Ryans, Precinct 7. You've offered replacing plastics with glass, but don't you think it creates safety situations for adults, for kids, and for pets? Because you showed us plastics all over the place, but it's going to be glass, broken glass all over the place. I think it's a safety. What do you think?
I think it depends on the application. Like when you go to a pool, you don't bring glass. If you're going to be out on the street, you probably wouldn't bring glass. You might bring aluminum. Hopefully, even better is to bring a reusable bottle, which also insulates and can be reused rather than having to bring anything that needs to be used once and thrown away.
Thank you. Jonah, are you back?
I'm back.
Okay, please identify yourself
Jonna
once again.
Rosenblatt, Precinct 7. Why are you just doing water? Why are you not doing all the other, Coke bottles and, soda and lemonade and all that? It just doesn't make any sense, and I don't see how it's going to be of any benefit.
Thank you. Good question. The reason why we're doing single-serving plastic water bottles is because they are the most pervasive. They are the worst problem. They are the ones that are out there everywhere, And they are the ones that are more often used once or twice and then discarded. It's because it's the biggest problem. That's why we're trying to hit the worst of it first.
Okay, thank you. Lisa Lyons?
Thank you.
Hi, Lisa Lyons, Precinct 2. I have a question. Why is it that you're not okay with educating and encouraging and instead going for dictatorial measures? Why don't you believe in free choice?
I think we've had a lot of education. Anyone who's interested could easily access this information, and it hasn't changed people's behavior.
So you're looking to change people's behavior?
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, you slipped in a second question, but that's okay. All right, Becca, did you have a? No question. Okay. Over here, could you identify yourself, please?
Valerie Cohen, Precinct 5. Are you planning on giving ticket books and badges to the Climate Committee? Are the police going to give out tickets? How's that going to work?
This will be enforced by the Board of Health because it's a health issue. It will be part of their regular inspection process, similar to what they're doing now as far as plastic bags goes. So it's the type of thing where if someone brings it to their attention, they could do something about it. If not, it could be something that's part of their regular inspections on an annual basis.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to call it for the pro and con debate.
Just one question.
It's a quick question because we're going to move on.
So this fine, is this for the people selling the single-use water bottles, or is this people who are using single-use water bottles?
Thank you for your question. This is for the people who are selling. That's what the whole measure is aimed at. You can walk around town with a single-serving plastic water bottle as much as you want. That's not part of the bylaw.
But we'd have to go to a different town to buy it.
Yeah, one
Sorry.
question. What was your name? Could you identify yourself, please? Just identify yourself for the record.
Debbie Benz, Precinct 8.
Thank you very much, Debbie. All right, I'm going to call that for the technical questions. Time is getting late. We're going to move on. Pro and con debate. I'm going to reduce it to 2 minutes for pro and con debate because time is of the essence. It's 9:53. We have a couple more articles to go. Becca, you have a comment?
It's comment for con debate?
Yeah, we're pro and con debate.
Move the question.
Well, I got to hear at least a couple. I know time.
We've got to get through tonight. We're not going to change his mind.
Well, first of all, let me have at least two pro and con debate, 2 minutes each. Let's, Juan, are you?
Yeah, I'm person.
Are you okay, Juan?
Juan Fox, precinct 1.
2 people on pro and 2 people on con. You con?
I'm con.
Okay, thank you for letting me know. Go ahead.
I understand the issue that you're speaking about. I know about the conversations about plastics getting into the food and water. And yes, it's probably bad for you in the long run. We'll find out as time goes on just how bad. Now, I drink the same bottle of water I'm drinking in my bag there that I've had for like 2 years. I don't buy water. So it doesn't really affect me that much, in buying water. But other people that find it convenient, and that's not going to change their habits. They're going to go outside of town to buy their water. And it's just going to take away the business of in town. Now, I think something like this should be more in this way of information as opposed to coercion. Provide people information on the health problems of this, and people will start moving away from it, like they did cigarettes. Cigarettes have not been banned. It's been well known that they're bad for you, and over time, people have drifted away from smoking cigarettes. Not that many people smoke anymore, okay? Something of that nature, but not banning things outright, operating by coercion for the good of us. I think everybody should know what's good for them, and they'll make decisions for themselves of whether they want to consume that in that way or not.
Thank you. Next up, John Linehan.
John Linehan, Precinct 1.
I'll just say
Are
the
you
question.
Are you pro, John?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just say that per the question, were there any other towns around here that have done that? I would love to have Stoughton distinguish itself by passing this. I think it's badly needed.
Okay, thank you. Next up, Paul Demuse, are you con?
Paul Demuse, I'm con.
Okay.
Precinct 2. The fight is with the industry, not with the residents of Stoughton. We had a plastic bag ban a couple of years ago. Go in a Stop and Shop and ask the people how they feel about that. Everyone hates it. Our trash now has to be in a plastic bag. If it's not in a plastic bag, you can't get your trash picked up. You know? Let's just live and, pay our taxes and move on.
Okay. I'm looking for one more pro. Who was first?
Do you want to speak? I've spoken. You go ahead.
Go ahead, Mr. Perry.
John Perry, Precinct 3. Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. I'm going to stand with this warrant article. I think, I don't get up here and speak often, but when I do, it's not Dos Equis, but I like to say that I kind of think of things that are important, right? So I can go ahead and buy a bottle, a 1 liter paper bottle at a store for the same cost as I can supply or purchase a 1 liter plastic bottle. So it's not a real inconvenience to the consumer. The stores will find a way. And I think it's a big issue. I mean, I've gone ahead down and purchased water at Simpson Springs. Now I can't. Simpson Springs has stopped their water from their dispenser. At the counter, I fill up a 5-gallon jug because there's plastics in the water, and they're saying they have to go through a different filtration system or something different. So I think the quicker or the sooner we have an understanding of the plastics and their impact on the environment, the sooner we can move on and create a message here that it's important to deal with this. So I think that the suppliers can find a way to sell us their product, whether it's going to be in a paper bottle. I purchased the aluminum bottles, I purchased the glass bottles, I'll purchase anything, and it's only 1 liter bottles. So your family can go buy a 1.5 liter bottle or, serving size for 3. You can carry it all day and hold your plastic bottle up with joy. But it's really just those 36 packs of 1 liter bottles that we're trying to remove from the environment. So I ask you to support it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's it for pro and con debate. I announce that no, it's over now. Yeah, 2 and 2. Mr. Wilkinson, did you want to do a very quick summary? We can't hear you.
Kind of scrunched down here. I've lived in town for over 30 years. I know that doesn't make me a townie, I admit. I don't know enough about our town, but I'm trying, having served on Conservation Commission and as a member of the Support Our Library Association. I do know that I chose this town because I saw a community of people who care, and you are the core of that community that cares. The request before you is one to act locally and think globally. The United States has 4% of the world's population. We generate 30% of its waste. This bylaw is a chance for our town to continue to lead by saying that we're willing to be a little inconvenienced to give our world a better chance at a healthy future. Plastics are not the innocuous substance we once thought they were. Certainly, the production of plastics adversely impacts our environment, and the disposal is hurting us all by polluting our environment while they invade our bodies and cause who knows what disease and death to us and the creatures who also inhabit our planet. Please, look beyond to see how this measure will provide a better world for all of us. Let us be like that little boy on the beach, making a difference. Thank you for your consideration.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. This is a general bylaw, so it's simple majority. Simple majority. Let me make sure we're ready to vote. Are we ready? Please vote now. 1, 2, or 3. Article, please. Quiet in the auditorium. Article 51 fails, 44 yes, 74 against, 1 abstention. Right, okay, next up is Article 52. As the petitioner approaches the podium, it appears on the next page, I should say page 89, Article 52, sidewalks on Turnpike Street, on page 89. Mr. Murphy, I have to ask you for the motion.
Okay, Peter Murphy, Precinct 2. The motion is as written on the warrant. I'll just say as written on the warrant.
Yeah, okay. Can I ask for clarification through town council, please?
Oh, wait.
Oh, you didn't bring a book?
I got one, thank you. Okay, Article 52, sidewalks on Turnpike Street from Central Street to Park Street, the design. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds in the Treasury, if any, state, federal grants or borrow sufficient sum of money per general law, Chapter 44, what's that symbol mean? Section, thank you. Section 7, to pay for the engineering, survey, design services for sidewalks on Turnpike Street from Central Street to Park Street, approximately 1.2 miles, including, if necessary, land acquisitions and/or easements and all other work required to complete the design of the new sidewalks or take any other action relative therefore. This scope, this is not part of the article, but this scope is for services included all phases of design, including project development through construction engineering for the intersection improvements of Central Street at Turnpike Street and along Turnpike Street from Central Street to Campanelli Parkway in Stoughton, Massachusetts. Estimated cost is $1,401,444. This article is to be excluded from the sunset bylaws restrictions.
All right, thank you very much. Is there a second? Seconded by Carolyn Campbell. Can I have the Finance Committee report, please?
Finance Committee voted 0 to 11 to recommend the motion for Article 52 as written in the warrant. The motion failed.
Thank you. Intergovernmental Relations, please.
Intergovernmental Relations voted 5 to 1 to recommend Article 52 to town meeting.
Thank you. Municipal Operations Committee.
Municipal Operations voted 1 yes, 3 no, 2 abstain to approve Article 52. Motion failed.
Thank you very much for those reports. Mr. Murphy, your presentation, please.
Okay, I'm waiting for the presentation to
Okay.
come up. While the presentation is coming up, over the years, the traffic has increased on Turnpike Street. Numerous individuals have come before Select Board asking for the attention to address this roadway. Police at times will patrol and enforce a 30-mile-per-hour speed limit. When a Kia came to town, a small portion of Turnpike Street north of Central only got sidewalks in the residential area. To have the town design and have ready for construction sidewalks on Turnpike Street from Central Street to Park Street, approximately 1.2 miles. This is required prior to requesting state and federal aid. This is an indication what Turnpike Street is. Next slide, please. Actually, you can go to slide 3. On a daily basis, there is an average of 5,364 vehicles traveling on Turnpike Street. Several school bus routes with multiple bus stops on Turnpike Street. Students crossing the street and standing on the street at intersections waiting for the buses. Turnpike Street is heavily traveled with cars, truck gross weights of over 25,000 pounds, 53-foot-long trailer trucks, 10-wheel dump trucks loaded with asphalt. Pedestrian joggers need to be mindful of the traffic at speeds of excess of 30 miles per hour. Next slide, please. Turnpike has increased over the years. Traffic has increased over the years, I'm sorry. Turnpike Street has become a known bypass for Route 24 during rush hour, especially if there is an accident on 24. With IKEA, Costco, Jordan Furniture, Home Depot being large draws, the back entrance off Turnpike Street also, the Amazon with 53-foot-long trailers holding parking lot, approximately 75 plus on Maple Street. Going to their other Amazon warehouse that people didn't realize is down at Campanelli Parkway industrial area. There's also a newly approved in 2003 distribution center with 3 buildings totaling 168 loading docks, 400 plus employees parking spaces utilizing Turnpike Street. Franklin's Wooden Goods warehouse is added to their building. There's also other furniture stores down there, Bob's Furniture Warehouse and delivery trucks. There's been an increase in emergency ambulances and fire trucks. Next slide, please. Accidents at Turnpike and Central have increased as well. Next slide, please. The benefits. It gets the pedestrians out of the travel lanes. It gives students a safe passageway to and from the buses. This is critical since the peak travel time for students and traffic is from 7 to 8 a.m. and from 2:30 to 4:30. This allows joggers not to worry about cars and large trucks doing 30 miles an hour plus on Turnpike Street. With the line striping added, bike travel lanes' current width of pavement is 27 feet. Travel lanes are 24 feet. Dirt buffers on both sides range anywhere from 4 feet to 8 feet each side. This section of Turnpike Street has an easement of 60 feet wide, so there's plenty of room on either side for sidewalks. The benefit to this is to improve the quality of life for the environment of the abutters and the surrounding neighbors on Turnpike Street. With this funding, we're able to seek state and federal funding for sidewalk construction. The design work must be completed by the town first. Next slide, please. There was a safety audit that was performed by Old Colony, and I'm going to try to shorten this up. And what happened was the safety audit, actually go to the next slide. These were members of the town that were part of the safety audit. Okay. And again, I reiterate the fact that there's 5,364 vehicles on Turnpike Street. We can move ahead to the next slide. This was the traffic counts over several days. Okay, next slide. One of the things that came out of that audit was the fact that it asked for a new sidewalk along the northwest side of Turnpike Street and a shared use path along the southeast side up to Campanelli Parkway. This project was funded, and the project is in preliminary design phase. Next slide, please. And again, this is another part of that came out about looking for sidewalks. So this is nothing new down in that area. Next slide. Okay, Park Street Sewer Extension Project was approved by the Finance Committee back in 2019. And of that came out was provide traffic and pedestrian safety improvements for the surrounding area. Next slide, please. This is your money that you get from your Chapter 90 money, and as you notice, over the years, they've given 770,000 average throughout over the years. One year they're a little generous. And what happens is, Maura Healy talked about that, giving this to the town, but if you look at it, we've been getting that since 2014, so it's nothing new. But that's not enough money to take care of the roadways. As you notice, there were previous articles before us voting over $2 million to do repaving of streets currently in use. Okay, next slide, please. Wrap this up here. Turnpike Street is, again, thickly settled residential area with a speed limit of 30 miles per hour. Several school bus routes with multiple bus stops. Students must walk and cross along Turnpike Street and then stand in the roadway. Again, I talk about the joggers, walkers, and also people walking their dogs while in the roadway. Again, I can read through this, but it's the same.
Is there a way you can summarize this, Mr. Murphy?
I'm going to summarize it. I'm summarizing it right now
Okay,
as
thank
we
you.
speak.
And let me just say, I can ask, if please people don't leave. We need to finish 2 more articles. We're almost done with the entire town meeting. Go ahead, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you for interrupting. I'm sorry.
And it's okay. I just want to.
Over the years, we have been told that with all these different additions for businesses coming into town, have benefited the town. With these additions, we'll bring millions and millions of dollars to the town. What was not mentioned is to the Turnpike residents. Quality of life would be paying the price with disregard of traffic, noise, safety to walkers, joggers, and children in the area. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy.
I ask you for your support, and keep in mind the people down in Precinct 2, Precinct 3 are the ones that are paying the price that the town is benefiting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Murphy, for your presentation. At this point in time, Town Council wants to add a couple of things. Yes.
Working. It's working. Through you to the meeting. Video work? Not working.
There it is. It's working.
We're back. So again, Mr. Moderator, through you to the meeting, specifically to the petitioner, there are 2 issues with the motion as made. Well, going through the questions, you may want to consider amendment. Here are the 2 problems as I see them. One is the motion calls for a sufficient sum. It needs to be for a sum certain, a specific dollar figure you're asking town meeting to approve. Second is you've listed, you need to choose your funding source. The financial team and the borrowing folks are going to know what to do with this article. So because it's more than $1.4 million, I'm guessing you're suggesting borrowing, but it also says raise and appropriate, which is taxation. I don't know if you meant that. It also says transfer from available funds, but it doesn't specify which funds. And then lastly, it mentions borrowing. So to the petitioner, again, you need to pick a funding source, and it needs to be for a sum certain.
Okay.
So while you proceed, I want the petitioner to have that information in case he wishes to make an amended or revised motion.
All right.
Okay, let me proceed first. Should we proceed first? Well, let's get the amended motion.
Okay, for the...
Mr. Moderator?
Okay.
I would like to add also, would we be having the section on there about the sunset bylaw restriction? Would that be part of the amended motion also?
I did make that part of the...
He stated that.
That was
before the
after
second.
it was stated. It was stated that that part was not part of the motion when that part was
But
read.
did he get the second after that was stated?
I'm just clarifying, that's all.
Okay.
I'm saying if he's going to redo the motion now, I'm just mentioning to...
Oh, you can,
Thank
okay, we'll have that clarified. Okay, thank you. So, P, if you can maybe write an amended motion with those
I
typical...
believe I stated in the motion about this article to be excluded from the sunset bylaw.
Okay, just put that in the final line in your amended motion, just so
Yeah.
we're clear.
It's in the book.
Okay. Hang on, I'm gonna hear Mr. Scardino first.
All right.
This is technical questions. One question each.
Mr. Moderator. Mr. Moderator, should I make the friendly motion first about just having it a borrowing article?
Stand by for 1 sec. Yeah, I know, so.
Huh?
Right.
You know, I said, well, I gotta grab my
Okay.
book because.
First, let's hear from
Point of
people.
information, Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Cohen, hang on a minute. Just to clarify everything, I'm gonna hear from the people first.
I'm saying this article should have gone to the attorney's office to be looked at. We're not gonna make changes. You got 15 minutes left, and we're making adjustments to this. To the motion here, I would suggest you take it back and come back with a complete motion to get it done. This is not the place to do it.
All right, thank you very much. The petitioner can take your advice if he wants to. Mr. Scardino, technical question, please.
Joe Scardino, Precinct 1. Regardless of what the motion looks like, my question will still be the same. Through you, Mr. Moderator, to the petitioner, did you come in front of the planning board and suggest that this be included as a mitigation item when that project for the 400 terminals was put forth just recently by the planning board?
Yeah.
And you need to have the language.
Can we have an answer to that? Did you hear that question?
I heard there was something about the planning board.
I'll repeat my question for the petitioner. My question was, did you appear in front of the planning board to discuss this as an item of mitigation with respect to the large project in the Page Street area with the so-called truck terminals that affect your project, your area of concern?
I went to several meetings when that was at the planning board as a resident town meeting member. And what happened was I was shot down by their lawyer. No, they were not going to do anything. And what happened was that was one of the reasons that drove me to become part of the planning board, because there was a big oversight as far as I'm concerned. But getting back to the article at hand and the substitute motion.
Oh, excuse me. I wanted to ask a question before you do that, if that's okay, if you don't mind.
All right, go ahead. Go ahead, David Laurie.
Yeah, so through David Laurie, Precinct 6, through you, Mr. Moderator, I wanted to find out from our financial director where we stand on free cash before we immediately knee-jerk go straight to a borrowing and see where we stand. There's been, after the articles that have already been approved, so the net, where we are.
Free cash would not be able to sustain this article after borrowing, etc. And our calculated holdback, we have an unallocated balance of $74,334. Oh, I'm sorry. Our free cash that is unallocated at this point is $74,334. We also have what's called 10% holdback, which is $600,916. So there is not sufficient funding to fund this article.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay. That's what the quote that I got from. All right.
For me to accept his amended motion in writing, since it wasn't submitted to me prior, 48 hours prior, I need a motion to suspend the rules to accept his motion, his amended motion. Okay, I need a 2/3 vote by voice vote. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed?
No.
I think it failed. So there's no amendment.
So, through you, Mr. Moderator, to our attorney. So are you saying that this would not go through the Attorney General with the extra funding already mentioned, as stated?
Yeah, Mr. Town Council, please answer that.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, let's see if this is working. It seems like it's working. So, Mr. Moderator, through you to the speaker, it's not a bylaw, so it's not going to be transmitted to the Attorney General. Only bylaws get reviewed by the Attorney General, but it is going to be reviewed by the Department of Revenue and the town's in-house financial team and the outside financial consultants. And I think because of the legal flaws that I just mentioned, it's very problematic. And so I don't think that this is an article that's going to allow the town to either borrow or raise or appropriate funds in order to support the project. That's why I voiced those concerns and why I suggested amendment would be necessary in order to make it a lawful article.
All right, in the interest of time, I'm going to step back from this article and withdraw it at this time without prejudice.
Okay, that's a motion to withdraw. Who seconded that? Bob Cohn. Okay, by voice vote. All those, it's just simple majority. All those in favor to vote on to withdraw this article, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes. This article is now withdrawn. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Moving on to Article 54. We did 53 on May 15th, so now we're on page 91. Article 54, Columbus Day name change to Indigenous Peoples Day. It's a petition article. And if I could have the petitioner, she's present at the podium. Please identify yourself to the body and then make your motion, please.
Sylvia Whiting, Precinct 6. Do you want me to read that?
Yes, you can read so far, then you can, at your convenience, you can say it's printed in the warrant.
One sentence, Columbus Day name change to Indigenous Peoples Day, petitioned article. To see if the town will vote to replace the holiday Christopher Columbus Day on the second Monday of October with Indigenous Peoples Day, or take any other action relating thereto. There is an explanation in the book, so you could go to that explanation to review it.
Thank you very much. Just say it's printed in the warrant?
Yes, it's printed in the warrant book.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second? Who seconded it? Mark? Mark Struck, thank you for the second. Okay, going to ask for the standing committee reports. Municipal operations?
Municipal operations voted 2 no, 1 abstain to approve Article 54. 3 yes, 2 no, 1 abstain.
Next up is municipal regulations. Mr. Rock, did you want to take this one?
Wait for it. Municipal regulations voted 2 in favor, 5 against to recommend the Article 54 to town meeting. Motion failed.
Okay, thank you. I know it's 10:24, but we've taken this article up before 10:30, so we're going to obviously hear it. Sylvia Whiting, go ahead with your
Yes, I'd like to
presentation.
thank you for giving me the chance to present this. I do regret that it's so late this evening and it ended up being the last article. If you want to go to the next slide, I'll make this very brief. First of all, at least 25 cities and towns in Massachusetts have already approved this article. 16 states have approved it. Some not mentioned here: Arlington, Bedford, Brookline, Melrose, Salem. Neighboring town, Sharon, has approved it, Bedford. So some neighboring towns have approved it. Could you go to the next slide, please? Why would we celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day? Much of our history has really been inaccurately recorded and reported. Not just Indigenous history, but the history of early settlers, early black slave history, the history of the Chinese, the Irish, the Italians, immigrant history, the conditions people have encountered, restrictions, and atrocities. This amendment will not only begin to recognize the native inhabitants who were here long before Columbus, really tens of thousands of years before Columbus. But we need to learn about the first Americans, the really true, accurate history, and I think that's really a valid way that we educate our young people. And also, Columbus was not even the first European to come to explore North America. A second reason would be to celebrate indigenous resilience and survival, understand the true impact of Native American survival and demise, join the many states and cities that we had already discussed, who have already recognized this day, and then acknowledge the accurate history for generations to come. Next slide, please. The Stoughton history really is the history of land theft and cultural genocide, to be honest with you. Between 1620 and 1726, we're looking at 106 years. In 1620, the land now comprising the town of Stoughton was inhabited by many Native Americans, the Algonquins, Neponsets, Pequots, Wampanoags, and others, and it soon became the property of the English colonists. From about 1621 to about 1660, the native peoples in this area signed a treaty with the English pilgrims and a chief called Chief Catawba, one of the early rulers of this land and the territory. There was actually a club in Stoughton named after that chief. It was established around 1920, and they had a souvenir program. They had a program of about 100 pages, which the Historical Society has in their records. It stated that in 1620, when the forefathers landed at Plymouth, they found the Indian chief in full possession of all the country. So this was really native land. It is not accurately known how far his jurisdiction extended. His tribe, the Massachusetts, were the next great people north of the Wampanoags and were settled principally around Massachusetts Bay. The petty tribes around him paid tribute to him, so he was really a grand ruler of this whole area. By 1630, he consented to the occupancy of Dorchester by the Bay Colony English, and even by 1657, the town created the 6,000-acre Ponkanog Plantation, an Indian meeting house at York Pond, and an Indian cemetery at Indian Lane. So this is some very early history, Native American history. By the 18th century, in 1701, the first white child was actually born in Stoughton. So it wasn't until 1701 that early colonists actually resided in Stoughton. Stoughton was incorporated in 1726. We are going to be celebrating a 300th anniversary in 2 years. The colonists had actually discarded the Native American name of Ponkapog and named the town after William Stoughton, an early preacher and politician. But research shows other aspects of European contact had profoundly negative impacts on the native people's ability to survive foreign invasion. Wars, massacres, enslavement, overwork, deportation, the loss of will to live or reproduce, malnutrition. So there were many negative impacts of the early colonists that really has never really been told as part of Native American history. The diminished numbers of Native Americans who remained within what is now the boundaries of our town were either enslaved, indentured servants, day laborers, employed as domestic workers, or field hands. The next slide, please. This slide shows that there were actually guardians of the Ponkapog Indians in Stoughton and Canton. This is from 1727 to 1852. And it should be noted that it was not even until 1861 that this guardianship policy was actually eliminated, abolished, and Native peoples were given citizenship of the land that was theirs when they first arrived here, when we first arrived here. Next slide, please. Historically, before 1620, the area was Aboriginal. The territory was inhabited by some of the tribes I mentioned, the Algonquins, the Massachusetts tribe, Neponsets, Pequots, etc. Historic Old Bay Road through Stoughton was an Indian trail 1,000 years ago. It was a foot trail for the early settlers. It actually was a stagecoach road to Taunton and Rhode Island from Boston Bay. So in 1976, the Stoughton Bicentennial Commission placed a marker on Bay Road by the Stoughton Rotary Club, and maybe for our 300th anniversary, we could be placing some of the markers that we approved at a previous town meeting for many of these historical sites that really were native sites. Canton was separated from Stoughton in 1797. Prior to that date, the area was all known as Stoughton. So realistically, we could go and approach Canton and tell them that maybe we want our land back. The legacy of the conquest, some of the history is well documented and well recorded. But Columbus actually made 4 voyages under the flag of Spain from 1492 to 1502. His goal was fame and fortune and riches. That was his goal. He could keep 10% of all riches he could claim, along with the title and governorship of all the lands found. Well, he never did find our country, this country, so it never did become under his guardianship. He landed in 1492 in what is now San Salvador, not the East Indies. He was really seeking a pathway to the East Indies. He set out to find a direct route from Europe to Asia and stumbled upon the Americas, a land inhabited by millions of indigenous peoples. His detailed diaries outlined what he encountered: wildlife, animals, terrain, weather, initial impressions of the local people. He actually thought they should be enslaved when he encountered them. They had not arms or strength, so they should be servants, is what he wrote. On his return voyages, he found the Europeans had enslaved the indigenous population, and he did not find gold or other wealth, but his wealth would come from the native slaves. His journeys kicked off hundreds of years of exploration and exploitation. This is why we're here today and presenting this article. Like many European explorers, Columbus encountered indigenous people throughout his voyages. Controversy evolved around the contact with indigenous peoples he labeled Indians. He used violence and slavery, forced conversion of native peoples to Christianity, and the introduction of a host of new diseases that would have dramatic and long-term effects on native peoples in the Americas. Next slide, please. This slide is just a grandmother born in 1887 from Cambridge. She was a survivor. She made the family promise never to bury me at the mission, because this is where native peoples ended up who encountered the European invaders who came to this country. Her granddaughter, Rose Lassaus, was born in 1987, and she's a biomedical mechanical engineer in Cambridge. The last slide, please. In conclusion, I'll do a conclusion now. There's generations of historical trauma has been suffered by indigenous peoples and persists even today, a legacy that we can no longer ignore. Today, facts uncovered must be acknowledged. We cannot change history. We certainly can't do that. We can only tell future generations the accurate and true history. Much of the history that has been recorded.
Your time's up.
Okay, so I'm presenting this article as the first step in accomplishing this goal, and thank you for your time today.
Okay, thank you very much. Would people object if we forego the technical questions and go right into pro and con debate?
I have.
I mean,
All right, I'll
we're okay with that? Thank you very much. Seeing no argument with that. Pro and con debate? Yeah, let's go right into pro and con debate. Who was up first? Mr. Dave Lurie? 2 minutes, 2 minutes each.
David Lurie, Precinct 6, thank you through you, Mr. Moderator. I think it was accurately stated that Columbus was an explorer, but when I hear the explanation about what was interpreted to be what he was responsible for, it sounded like it was more of an attack on the settlers that came much, much later in our history So I'm wondering whether or not the wrong holiday was picked. It sounds more like, why not attack 4th of July? That represents when we established our country as a complete dominating entity of all the land across the land of all the states. So I don't understand why you're picking on Columbus Day. And separately, Columbus was a pretty tough guy. Think about what he did. Everybody thought the world was flat. And nobody in the Western Europe thought it would make sense to do it. So imagine trying to get a bunch of people in a ship and actually go all the way across the Atlantic and make sure that they don't perform a mutiny on him, because he had to prove that there was actually going to be land on the other side of the ocean instead of falling off the edge of the earth. He did that. He was an explorer, and we recognize him for that achievement and not for all the things that you're claiming that he did, which seems almost like so minute in the way things were back in the day, to just lambaste him with all that kind of venom. It just bothers me that you're not recognizing the greatness of why Columbus Day is what it is, and it's more of an attack on the United States, not on Columbus.
Thank you. Moving on.
We go home.
Was that a question?
No, we're not doing questions. We moved on to comments.
Could I at least respond to it?
No, you can do a summary at the end.
Thank you.
Juan Fox.
Juan Fox, Precinct 1. When will the canceling of our history and culture end? And is everything that's going to be offensive to be canceled? And if such, how about Franklin Delano Roosevelt? He unconstitutionally put Japanese Americans in concentration camps in World War II. Are we going to scratch his likeness off the dime coin? And how about the name of this town? You brought this up with the name, changing from Pocketuck. William Stoughton was the Chief Justice of the witch trials, Salem witch trials, where people were hung for being a witch. Are you planning to change the name of the town back to Ponkapog? So I'm offended by this. My Italian and my Spanish ancestors are rolling in the graves over this. Columbus was the favorite son of Italians and Spanish. In Barcelona, where my mother comes from, there's a statue of Columbus on a 100-foot pedestal, pointing at the New World, and it's something that the Spaniards take heart. It's their guy. It's their man. So I think they would not agree with this. So it's an insult, and I'm going to vote no for this.
All right, thank you very much. Next up is Peter Ventrusco.
Peter Ventrusco, Precinct 8. Christopher Columbus landed in the Bahamas on October 12, 1492, the island he called San Salvador. Columbus never landed or found what is America today. The Italian explorer Amerigo Vespucci, sailing for Spain like Columbus, found a new land that Columbus did not. In 1507, a German, Martin Waldseemüller, made the first world map, also known as the American birth certificate. Waldseemüller included on the map of the data gathered by Amerigo Vespucci for his voyage of 1501 and 1502, Waldseemüller named the new land America. In 1507, the map recognizing Vespucci for Waldseemüller realized Amerigo discovered the new continent. And the maker of the petition, that municipal's operation petition, said, in 1851, in America, Columbus killed 10 million native people. My response was, that was 400 years after. So after that, the next meeting, she changed that. So, okay, I guess Columbus found a fountain of youth, drank from the fountain, and destroyed it. That's why explorer Juan Ponce de Leon never found the fountain. Where does all this rewriting history end? American natives were killed by the English, French, and the Spaniards. No Italians. Let's rename the oldest city in America, St. Augustine, Florida. And San Diego Los Angeles, California. They're all
Mr.
Spanish.
Ventresco, time's up.
No, you told me I could have 2 minutes.
You had 2 minutes. 2 minutes went by. Yeah, I mean, we have a...
Just give me a minute. Boston,
Mr. Ventresco, sorry, but time is up. Thank you for your comments. Appreciate it.
well, I just want to say one good thing about it.
Very quickly,
Okay, I truly believe
hurry up.
the ingenious people were here when the Europeans arrived. Deserve a special day, but not October 12th. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you very much for your comments. Next up is Lisa Lyons. And before you start, Lisa, I just want to say, we do have a town resident that would like to speak at the end of the town meeting reps. If debate is not cut off, I leave it up to the town meeting reps.
Hi.
All right, so Lisa, go ahead.
Hi, Lisa Lyons, Precinct 2. I would like to express my appreciation and understanding of your desire to right the wrongs of the past. That is noble. But with that being said, there are innumerable amounts of wrongs done across this world, and even currently as we speak today. We have to have some sort of resilience, recognize them, like you've tried to teach us some things we may not have known today, and I appreciate that. However, I do object to a previous speaker's point of with that being said, trying to cancel what we already have. If you want to add a different day, like Juneteenth added their day, we object, or I personally object to keep trying to change what already exists in our culture. Thank you. I'll be voting no on this.
Okay, thank you very much. Next up is Mr. Richard Terry.
Richard Terry, Precinct 8. I'm in favor of this article because, one, Columbus was not a very good navigator. He was turned down by his own home city of Genoa. He was turned down by Venice, which were kingdoms at that time. The Portuguese, at that time, were by far the best navigators in the world. They turned him down, and England turned him down. As the petitioner said, he was in it for one thing, money, period. He didn't care. Luckily, he got lost, almost had a mutiny on his boat, and some nice American indigenous people found him and saved his life. We're not trying to rewrite history, we're trying to write it properly and correctly. And everything that we've learned in grade school, like the Pinta de Maria and the Santa Maria, that's all baloney. What this woman said is correct. And it's not because he's Italian or Spanish. He was simply a business guy who wrote in his own diary what he thought of people he didn't know about. And for those very reasons, he should not be considered it's actually a federal holiday. 25 states don't even recognize Columbus Day at the civilian level. The reason Columbus Day even started, there was a massacre of 11 Italian people in New Orleans. And that started, that sympathy of that president at that time chose to use that to his own benefit. So this is a good idea. I strongly support it. I hope you all do too.
Okay, thank you very much. Over here, please identify yourself.
Hi, Jennifer Sears, Precinct 3. I have been a social studies teacher for over 27 years in Massachusetts. And one of my other roles is I'm on the Mass Council for the Social Studies. And we have removed Columbus pretty much from the curriculum in Massachusetts. He's mentioned as an explorer, but he's also mentioned as a murderer of over 1 million people and what he did to the people in the Caribbean. So we should not be recognizing him anymore. We need to follow what the 25 states have. I do know it's also in the Massachusetts legislature right now to pass this as a law. So it might even become null and void, because if Massachusetts passes it, it won't matter what Stoughton does. But maybe Stoughton should go to the forefront first and show Massachusetts that we care about history and that Columbus is not the history we want to care about.
All right, thank you very much. Moving on, Jonah Rosenblatt.
Yes, John Rosenblatt, Precinct 7. I just want to say for all the Italian people that revere this holiday, I want to vote yes, and I think it is 1024% a bad idea to change the name.
Okay, thank you. Carolyn Campbell.
Hi, Carolyn Campbell, Precinct 4. I would encourage everyone to vote yes in favor of this article. Holidays are made for a reason. We elect to name our holidays in order to celebrate or to honor or to remember or to various, certain events. Columbus Day, as the previous speaker said, it was created as a way to honor Italian Americans and to acknowledge that at that time they were having discrimination, and the way they chose to acknowledge it was by naming the holiday after Columbus because of the myth of Columbus. At this point in time, I think we have a huge obligation to honor the indigenous peoples and our obligations and acknowledge the history, not necessarily pretty. It's not canceling anything. I think that our needs of a society have changed, and right now we have the need to recognize that all of the European settlers, pretty much everybody in this room are not native to the Americas, and we live on land that was once a whole bunch of indigenous people's culture, and that was all destroyed. I think it's time, right now, it's our time to honor them, and so I support changing this name. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I just want to remind people, after this article, we have one more article, Article 17. We just have to deposit monies into the stabilization fund, so please stay in your seats. Stay in the auditorium. All right, so we'll be very quick. Okay, next up is Larry Sawyer. Mr. Sawyer.
Larry Sauer, Precinct 2. I'll keep this brief. I am in favor of this article. Columbus never set foot in North America and didn't discover it. There were between 50 and 100 million Native Americans, indigenous people here in 1492. Thank you. I hope that you all vote for this.
All right, thank you very much. Next up is Pat Colburn.
Pat Colburn, Precinct 4. I think the irony is so rich that descendants of immigrants are standing here trying to fight to keep a holiday named after a man from another country who murdered millions of people. Regardless of that, I am voting for this. Thank you.
Okay, next up is Becca Moxon.
Becca Markson, Precinct 7. Move the question.
Okay, that cuts off debate. As I mentioned, there was a resident that would like to speak, but it's up to the town meeting reps. Okay, we need a 2/3 vote by voice vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. All right. Do you want to do a very quick summary? Very quick.
Oh, I'd just like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to present this article. I think now is the time to right some wrongs. Generations of historical trauma have been suffered by indigenous peoples. I bet if you researched your own backgrounds, many of you would realize that you actually have some inheritance of indigenous people, such as I do, and my family. So I think that this is really an opportunity for you to tell history the way it should really have been told. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. Okay, are we ready to vote? Simple majority. Please vote. Please vote right now. 1, 2, or 3. Simple majority. And please stay in the auditorium. We have a real quick motion to move money into this, deposit money into the stabilization fund.
Thank you. Oh, it passed. It passed.
Okay, Article 54 passes, 60 yes, 44 no, 1 abstention. Please turn to page 45, Article 17.
Mr. Moderator, I make a motion to suspend the rules
Oh, yes,
to not take up any new business after 10:30.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Becca, seconded by Carolyn Campbell.
Becca Markson, Precinct
Becca
7.
Moxon, thank you. We need a 2/3 vote. By voice vote, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. And I need a motion to take Article 17 from the table.
I make that motion to take Article 17 from the table.
Carol, seconded by who? Joe, okay. Seconded by Joe Scardino. Okay, the motion from 17 is off the table. We just got to make the motion. Okay, did we make the motion? We did that. Oh, I'm sorry. Did we? Okay. Okay, I just need a voice vote to take it off the table. Regular vote? Simple. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, it's off the table. It's before you. Now I need a motion to Article 17. Carolyn Campbell, can you make that motion?
I make the motion to approve Article 17 to vote to deposit $850,000 to the stabilization fund and to meet that appropriation, $850,000 be transferred from free cash.
I guess I'll second it.
Who seconded that? Joe Scardino, second by Joe Scardino. This is simple. Simple majority. All those in favor, please, I should say, vote by the clicker. Please vote now. 1, 2, or 3. Oh, it's not ready?
Really?
I have a question.
Is there a debate on this?
Well, I just have a question. Heather Kirby, Precinct 6. How much did you say was in free cash?
Do we have an answer to that?
Yes. Currently, our free cash for everything that has not been allocated or put away is $74,334. And the calculation is the $850,000 request to transfer to stabilization fund.
That's included, you're saying?
That's in the balance, correct. It's already been deducted from the balance.
That's curious.
It's already been out.
Okay. Any other debate? Hearing none? Are we ready to vote? Please vote now. 1, 2, or 3. Simple majority.
Yeah, it's not going to be.
Vote.
I still need a motion to dissolve once we get the vote in. Right, we don't?
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Moderator?
I make the motion to dissolve the Springtown meeting 2024.
Well, let me just announce that vote. 96 yes, 4 no, 0 extensions.
Mr. Moderator, I move that we dissolve the 2024 annual
I'll
town
second
meeting.
it.
Okay, motion by Joe Scardino, second by Elliot Hansen. All those in favor by voice vote, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you all for coming. This annual town meeting is now dissolved.